Good evening. I would like to call to order tonight's Town Council meeting for October 20, 2014 at 7 p.m. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Krasko?
Present.
Councilor Clements?
Present.
Councilor Estrada?
Present.
Councilor Manna?
Present.
Councilor Moriarty?
Present.
Councilor Peliquin?
Present.
Councilor Steves?
Present.
Councilor Vandal?
Present.
Councilor Vecchia?
Present.
9 here.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is consider and accept the Town Council meeting minutes of Monday, October 6, 2014.
So moved. Second.
Do we have any corrections, amendments? Councilor Steves?
Just one minor thing. In Councilor's forum, the paragraph about the stuff that I was talking about, it's I mentioned for mid-sized towns under 35,000, just 35,000 people, not dollars.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that
And
again.
in the section under Councilor's forum,
Yeah.
I was talking about the pilot program for 95 suburban edge communities. It's 35,000 people, not
People?
$35,000.
Okay, people, thank you.
Okay, that's it.
Any other corrections? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
Councilor Estrada?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
Councilor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councilor Peliquin?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yeah.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
Councilor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councilor Krasko?
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you.
Sean, I have a question about minutes.
About those meeting minutes?
About meeting minutes. We had 2 meetings on the goals and objective, and that was a couple of weeks ago. I haven't seen any minutes yet.
From the council, the whole meetings?
Yes.
I also don't recall seeing them, but I can't say that for sure. So we'll look into it with the manager's office and take care of that. Thank you.
I didn't do those meetings.
You didn't do them yet?
They're not mine. I
Yeah,
didn't
it
do them.
wasn't, Stacy wasn't the one doing
okay.
the recording.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Agenda item number 4, subcommittee reports. The first is general government. Councilor Clements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are no meeting minutes this week. However, there is a meeting on Wednesday, this Wednesday, October 22nd, 6:30 in the George Parent Conference Room. That's up here. There are a couple of items. We'll be discussing health insurance renewals and also voting Schedule 5 change. Minimum wage is going from $8 to $9 an hour in January. So those are the 2 items. Thank you.
Thank you. B, DPW. Councilor Vandal.
Thank you. The meeting of the DPW Subcommittee was held on Tuesday, October 14, 2014, in the Rice Conference Room. In attendance was myself, Councilor Clements, Councilor Estrada, citizen members Mark Moran and Roger Cowett. Also in attendance were Councilor Manna, Councilor Steves, Acting DPW Director Heather Blakely, and Estelle Cowett. I call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Agenda item number 1, vote to recommend to Council for appointment of Donald Ouellette as temporary professional engineer, effective Tuesday, October 21st, 2014, at 20 hours per week for a 3-month period or until a new DPW director is hired. A motion was made by Councilor Clements and seconded by Councilor Estrada. Discussion. Councilor Clements asked where Mr. Ouellette lived. Ms. Blakely said she is not sure, but it is someplace north of Worcester. Councilor Clements also asked about the salary. Ms. Blakely said she did not have the numbers. She was not part of that discussion, but the money is in the budget and the amount will not exceed the budgeted amount. All agreed that the information should be provided before the next meeting. A motion was made by Councilor Clements, seconded by Roger Cowett, to amend the agenda item and add contingent on having the salary information provided to all council members prior to the vote. Vote by show of hands, all in favor, 5-0. A motion was made by Councilor Clements and seconded by Councilor Estrada to recommend to Council the appointment of Donald Ouellette as temporary professional engineer, effective Tuesday, October 21st, 2014, at 20 hours per week for a 3-month period or until a new DPW director is hired, contingent on having the salary information provided to all council members prior to the vote. Vote by show of hands, all in favor, 5-0. The motion to adjourn was made by Councilor Clements and seconded by Roger Cowett. Vote by show of hands, all in favor, 5-0. I adjourn the meeting at 7:13 PM. Respectfully submitted, Evelyn Rivera, recording clerk. I just want to say that I never got any paperwork on how much this guy's getting, you know.
Sorry. I was going to say, it's in our, I wondered the same, Conrad, but it's in our letter from the town manager. You know, our letter for the week that we get, it's on the front page.
It's in there?
Yeah, when he explains different departments, he explains the $60.
The department
You go
head letter.
ahead, sorry.
Apologies
Yeah.
to the committee and to the chair, but what happened is couldn't be here that night. I had a conflict, and I did not get word to Heather, so she didn't know what to report to you. So I put it in my town manager's report this week. It'll be $60 an hour for 20, not to exceed 20 hours a week.
Right.
And that stays within the budget so that when the permanent engineer is hired, we still have full funding.
Very good, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. C, Education and Human Services, Councilor Pelican.
I just
I'm
want to
sorry.
mention to the council that Mr. Ouellette was going to be here tonight to meet you, and I don't see him. He did call about 15 minutes ago and said he was in Oxford, which I did not take as a good sign.
Okay.
But if he does get here and I notice him, I'll let you know so you can at least say hello to the council.
Okay, thank you. C, Education and Human Services, Councilor Pelican.
I have no minutes, and there's no meeting scheduled right now, but I will be scheduling one this week, so stay tuned.
Thank you. D, Planning and Development, Councilor Manna.
I have no meeting minutes and no meeting planned. Thank you.
E, Protection of Persons and Property, Councilor Carrasco.
Yes, we had a meeting on October 16th, Thursday, October 16th. It was held in the George Parent Conference Room. In attendance were myself, Councilor Manna, Councilor Vecchia, Citizen Member Gary Forcier. Also in attendance were Councilor Moriarty, Councilor Estrada, Councilor Steve, Town Manager Pecos, Police Chief Charette, Lieutenant Shane Woodson, Sergeant Jose Dingy, Scott Bailey, Robert Salisbury, Michael Sullivan, Jerry Avello, Evan Genkos, Brian Lee, Dolores Larcharel, and Erling Moe. Councilor Clements was present via telephone. Jack Jovan was excused. I called the meeting to order at 6:07. A motion was made by Councilor Vecchia and a second by Councilor Manna to move agenda item number 3 to agenda item number 1. Vote by a show of hands. All in favor, 4-0. Agenda item number 1, vote to approve the police reorganization and submit to council for ratification. Mr. Pecos explained the considerations that went into the police reorg. He explained that the budget was approved before the department was reorganization. Therefore, the organizational structure has already been approved. He believes that the organizational structure he is proposing allows for the growth of the department for many years to come. Councilor Carrasco expressed concern that the new organizational structure seems to indicate that Sergeant Jose Dingy would be removed from the Cops and Kids program, and that should be a C, not a K, in our minutes. Chief Charette said that that is not true. This program reports to him, and he has no intention of removing Sergeant Dingy from the program. Councilor Carrasco asked how many officers were down. In other words, how many were not filled, and was told that we are currently one short with another possibility by mid-December. Full staff is currently 35 officers and 28 part-time officers, which is auxiliaries. If staffing reached more than the 39 full-time officers, there would be a need for another sergeant. Chief Charette suggests that in a organizational structure should be looked at every couple of years. A motion was made by Councilor Manna and seconded by Gary Forcier with a favorable recommendation to council to approve the police reorganization. Vote by a show of hands. All in favor, 4-0. Agenda item number 2, vote to recommend the promotion of Lieutenant Shane Woodson to provisional deputy chief pending results of a civil service assessment exam and submit to council for ratification. Mr. Pecos said that when there is a budgeted position with a vacancy, it should be filled by a provisional position until the civil service assessment exams are taken. Mr. Pecos said he looked at the organizational structure when he came to this community and feels that The 2 provisional positions can be filled by the candidates proposed, as both have been excellent officers. Councilor Carrasco said that he would like to know what the union feels, as he did not want to create animosity within the department. Scott Bailey said that the union does not like the assessment center and they prefer the written exam. The cost of the assessment center testing is approximately $5,000 for around 3 candidates. There are currently approximately 4 companies that perform these testings. Chief Charette is presently involved with one of these companies and has excluded his company from participating. Mr. Pecos said that he is the appointing authority and does not ask for the opinion of the union as to what kind of testing should be done. He feels that the assessment center testing is better than a written exam and is willing to sit with the union leadership and explain the working of the assessment center and try to alleviate any concerns. Lieutenant Woodson said it is not his decision as to what test to take, and he would take either test. He has taken the written test for sergeant and lieutenant and passed both. Councilor Carrasco said his greatest concern is not rocking the apple cart with the union and is personally opposed to the assessment center testing because he does not want to create animosity within the department. Councilor Moriarty said that any decisions taken should be taken with input from the department, although we are not asking for permission. Mr. Pecos said that he is not taking a dictatorial position. He would ask for input and try to alleviate the concerns. A motion was made by Councilor Mena and seconded by Gary Forcier with a favorable recommendation to council to recommend the promotion of Lieutenant Shane Woodson to provisional deputy chief pending results of the civil service assessment exam. Vote by a show of hands, 3-1. Agenda item number 3, vote to recommend the promotion of Sergeant Jose Digny to provisional lieutenant effective immediately for an indefinite period and to submit to council for ratification. A motion was made by Councilor Mena and seconded by Gary Forcier with a favorable recommendation to council. Vote by a show of hands. All in favor, 4-0. A motion to adjourn was made by Councilor Mena and seconded by Councilor Vecchia. Vote by a show of hands. All in favor, 4-0. Meeting was adjourned at 7:55 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Evelyn Rivera, recording clerk.
Councilor Mena?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I have a couple concerns on the meeting minutes here for the PPP subcommittee that we had on Thursday, October 16th. There was much more discussion than just from yourself and Councilor Carrasco. And I know that minutes aren't supposed to be verbatim, but I would like to see my comment in there reflect these minutes when I stated that it was a manager's prerogative on the way the testing went and not the unions. And also, when it comes to the end of the discussion and the vote for the assessment for Lieutenant Woodson, it just says 3-1 EC opposed. It was 3 in favor. It should state who was in favor because that's what it normally does in the minutes from past meetings. And then EC opposed, that's rather vague. And also, agenda item number 3, I would have loved to see more discussion on that, as there was no discussion on that. And that's it. Thank you.
In concern to agenda item number 2, Councilor Vecchia, Councilor Mena, and Citizen Member Forcier were for that agenda item, and I was opposed to that agenda item.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Any other meetings set?
No other meetings set at this time, sorry.
No problem. Moving on to F, Town Manager Search Committee, and we'll again go to Councilor Carrasco.
Yes, we've had an interesting week. We were able to interview 5 of the 6 semifinalists. Due to one candidate not being available at this present time, we will not be submitting forward the prospective individuals due to still needing to interview one more candidate. I can tell you this, that we've had already 2 candidates withdraw from the process, but we are looking at our next candidate to see, because our consultant, according to his contract, is to provide at least the minimum of 3 candidates. So we have interviews scheduled for next week, and we will have another meeting set for that.
Any other questions? Councilor Manna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So what I got from your last email was that 1 candidate dropped out, so since then, another candidate has dropped out?
Yes, we had one of the 5 individuals did also write a letter or contacted our town manager's office that withdrew.
One of the semifinalists, but not one that was going to be brought forward as a finalist.
Okay, so there's
Did
still
not-
2,
Of the 3 that were
still 2?
intended to be brought forward as finalists, 1 withdrew.
Okay, so there's
Right.
still 2, and we're looking for 1. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none. Moving on to agenda item number 5, Chairman's announcements. Just briefly, from the Town of Southbridge Department of Emergency Management, for those who are still yet unregistered for the Citizen Alert System, which would have the telephone or email or text, they have scheduled 3 sessions in which members of the fire department will be available to assist you in signing up online, as well as answer any questions you may have. Those dates are Tuesday, October 28th at the Jacob Edwards Library at 1 p.m., Wednesday, October 29th at the Southbridge Community Center, the former Armory, at 9 a.m., Thursday, October 30th at the Jacob Edwards Library at 6 p.m. If you have non-English speaking family members or friends that you want to help be connected to the system, they urge you to come to one of these sessions, and they will show you how you can help them keep those folks connected. And they urge folks not to be left out, and that they remind you if they can't reach you, they can't alert you for any sort of issues that may arise. Beyond that, just a note that there is an American Red Cross blood drive Wednesday, the 22nd, from 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at Harrington Hospital. For more information, you can call 1-800-RED-CROSS. And then lastly, as next week is trick-or-treat and Halloween, the Horribles Parade and Halloween trick-or-treating will be held on Friday, October 31st. The Horribles Parade begins at 5 p.m. sharp, running from the former Mary E. Wells Junior High School down Main Street to the Town Common. Trick-or-treating will be held across town from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Moving on to agenda item number 6, Town Manager's announcements. Mr. Pecos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Several very quick items. I'm very, very pleased to tell you that the asbestos removal at 133 West Street began today, and we would expect that to take a few days, and then complete demolition will be happening as soon as we can get the contractor scheduled, and the chair will be attending this will be the first in what we hope is a long-term effort to take down a number of abandoned buildings in town, and so we're going to have a bit of a press ceremony, and Council Moriarty has agreed to be there for that. So I'll keep you all posted, so if anybody else wants to attend, you'll be able to do that. But that has finally begun, and we're very, very enthusiastic about that. Second item, we have been successful in forming a regional veterans district. That proposal is finished. I just completed it today with a memo, and it'll be coming to Council Peliquin's subcommittee as soon as Yvonne schedules a meeting with you. That memo will go with all the attachments to it. There was a political sign called into us that was located on Commercial Drive. As the council is aware, we allow one public place for that down at the Rotary and nowhere else on public property, so that sign was removed. I want to let the council know that we are working with Senator Moore's office to see if we can take that $113,000 playground grant, instead of building more playgrounds that we can't afford to maintain, since we already have problems maintaining our existing infrastructure, that we're trying to shift that so that we can close and reopen the pool, because DCR expects us to do that, and we are not budgeted for it because of the events this summer with the contractor. And then we would also hopefully use some of that to begin making some handicapped accessibility repairs at the West Street Playground and elsewhere, as the council has asked. And finally, if necessary, in order to compromise with the state, we would look at a small new playground to be located perhaps at West Street as an adjunct to the playing fields that are located there. Senator Moore is being, as usual, very, very helpful, and is serving as a mediator to try with the state bureaucracy to try to get this done. And hopefully DCR will be cooperative and help us out with that. We are looking at that building behind Domino's Pizza to see if we can figure out how to demolish it. Once we get the one on West Street complete and we see what kind of a balance we have left in the building demolition account, then we're going to move on that one next. We're trying to figure out exactly how to do it because it's not classically a building per se. So the procedure for condemnation is a little bit different, but we are working on it and we're working with the owner. And the last item, I was asked at a council meeting a couple of weeks ago if we have a registry of landlords. We do not have that. There used to be an association of landlords, which we had a dialogue with about property condition and et cetera. But that association is inactive now. We do have it in the goals and objectives to try and rekindle interest in creating one. So I will keep the council up to date on those efforts as they progress. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 7, swearing in and presentations. The first is from National Grid.
They are here.
Okay, excellent. And we have, at the very least, Miss Marcy Reed and company.
Shall I stand here?
Sure.
Great, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. So, I believe that the town manager's office had invited National Grid here. I know that some of the councilors had some questions or concerns. So I don't know if you have any opening remarks you'd like, or if you'd just like to open it up for discussion. But
Sure, I'd love to make some remarks. And first of all, thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to be here tonight. This is a very confusing topic, and I welcome the opportunity to talk about it because it's easier than a press release or a memo. So I just want you to know I brought 2 of my colleagues, Alita Fazzone and Colleen Gardner, here with me tonight. Colleen, in fact, is responsible for the relationship with Southborough, so you see her face more often than mine, but I'm so happy to be here tonight. So the question was posed around the rate increase that we are seeing starting on November 1st. And so I thought what I would try to do is explain what it is and what it isn't, and then from there we can just have a conversation if you want. The bill, your electric bill is made up of 2 main pieces. There's the supply piece and there's the distribution piece, and I'll explain each one. The distribution piece is the cost that, that National Grid controls and incurs. It's the line workers, their trucks, it's our maintenance budget, our capital investment here in Southbridge, it's the call center where you call to ask a question of the bill. And it's the piece that is controlled by periodic rate cases with the regulator. The last time we had a rate case was 2009. That piece is about 8 cents. So 8 cents per kilowatt hour is how I speak. So for every kilowatt hour you use, it costs about 8 cents for the trucks, the workers, the phones, and our capital plan. And that is cost that I'm directly responsible for in Massachusetts Electric and that we can control. So then the other part of your bill is the supply piece that I mentioned, and that's the actual electricity that you use in your house. Most people take that electricity from National Grid. If you look on your bill, it probably says basic service. Some customers, particularly large manufacturers and large industrials, might use an alternate supplier. In any case, it's called the supply portion. That piece is regulated differently. The state asks us to twice a year, in fact, they even mandate the date. We have to go out on a particular date and procure power contracts for the next 6 months so that we can then buy that power and sell it to our customers. This year, the price, as you've noticed, went up quite a bit on that piece. It's 16 cents per kilowatt hour. We buy it for 16 cents. We put it on your bill for 16 cents. We don't mark it up or down. It just passes right through. The reason it went up so high, for reference, last winter it was about 9 cents. So it almost doubled. In fact, if my memory is about 93% increase. That piece of the bill almost doubled. So the way we go out and procure electricity for our customers to use is to go out into the market of generating plants. You see them around here and there. They bid into the market what they think the electricity that they're going to generate will cost, and we're obligated to buy as much as we can at the lowest price. We have to take the low bids and just go up the chain. And when we did that this year, the total was 16 cents a kilowatt hour. The reason it went up so high this year is twofold. First of all, over 50% of the generating plants in New England, in Massachusetts is no different, half of the plants burn natural gas to generate electricity. They used to be coal, some of them were oil, most of them, happily I will say, because of environmental reasons, have switched to gas. And these companies generate power using natural gas. There is a lack of supply of natural gas into the region. Some of you will see, particularly if you go up the northern part of the state, around Route 2, you see signs, "Stop the pipeline." What that's referring to is there are 2 or 3 proposed pipelines into the region to bring gas to these generating plants so that they can buy more gas. It's basic. It's really sort of basic economics. There's a shortage of supply of natural gas, and there's a high demand for it in a winter month when these plants are just churning 24 hours a day trying to generate electricity. So that's one reason that part of the bill went up. The market is reacting to shortages of supply and high demand. The other reason it went up, and this we'll see if this holds, but the market, and I say that in quotes because it's, you know how it is, it's like a stock market actually where this gas is traded, is expecting a cold winter. Now, none of us really know what the weather's going to do, but the market is saying, wow, if it's a polar vortex like it was last year, these generating plants are going to churn even more electricity out, and that was the second reason why the prices went up. So we started getting hints, I want to say, in late summer that the market was edging its way up, and then the date that the regulator tells us, okay, you go to the market and buy your power, what we came back with was 16 cents. There are 2 other large investor-owned utilities in the state. One is called Northeast Utilities. It's the old Western Mass Electric and then an NSTAR. They go out for their purchase in January is their mandated date, and the other one is Unitil up in the Fitchburg area, and they go out in December, I think. I might have those dates backwards, but we all work on the same premise. They just roll us. They give us different dates to procure. My crystal ball suggests they'll end up in the same place because the market is what the market is. So that sort of explains the bill. It doesn't make me happy to explain it to you. I wish I could control weather and the way markets work, but the piece that National Grid can do something about is 8 cents, and we'll keep it there. But so what worries me is the impact that this has on our customers. Last year bill to this year's bill goes up 37%. So for an average customer, that's $33 a month. And I understand that will be a hardship for some of our customers. So there are a couple things that come to mind that people can do. One is probably the obvious one, and that is use less where you can. So trying to cut back, using energy efficiency. I am forever screaming at my kids to turn off the lights and the TV. But in the winter, what people don't realize, even if they heat with something else, propane, oil, gas, their furnace runs, it's got a fan, so it's running on electricity. They don't usually think about that, so just even keeping your heat down a couple degrees will help. So there's one thing that hopefully people can take advantage of. And then the other is, and a lot of people have been taking advantage of this, if you're not already on the plan we offer, which any utility offers, called budget billing, levelized billing, you should call us and do that, and I can give you the phone number. What it basically does is the computer calculates out your estimate of what your full year bill will be going forward, and it divides it by 12, and then it just bills you that every month. I myself am on this plan, so I know every month what my bill is going to be. The reason it's good to do it now is as your winter months are coming and your heater's going and that fan is going 24/7, and your bills are going to go up, if you call us now for levelized billing, we'll take those still large bills, but we'll divide them by 12, thereby helping a little bit with the cash flow. So it doesn't mean you're not going to pay what you're going to pay for this expensive electricity for the next 12 months, but it's what we can do to kind of ease it out. That's why it's called level billing. So I don't know if any of that was helpful. It was my attempt to explain both what's on the bill, how it gets there, and maybe a couple things you can do about it. But I'm happy to talk about whatever you want to talk about, answer any questions you have.
Sure. Do you have a contact number for that
Yes,
levelized
sorry,
billing
thank
service?
you. So it's 1-800-322-3223. Did we bring the pads with us? Okay. So at the end of the meeting, too, we have, let me see if that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, okay. These are just a series of phone numbers that we have. We actually give these to our linemen, and they throw them in their trucks. And then if they run into a customer on the street or something, and someone says, hey, I need the DigSafe number, or I want to call about my bill, they just rip a sheet off and hand it to the customer, rather than having to quote the numbers and all that. So we have these pads, and we're happy to share them with you.
Okay, excellent. As far as any individuals or homes that may have low income to begin with, do you offer any sort of assistance in those areas?
We already offer a low-income rate, so people who qualify can call, and probably they already have. And also the other thing that we do is we fund, to the extent we're able to, some of the, not LIHEAP itself, but similar types of funding through CAP agencies and other programs. So those people, I'm always telling them, go through the CAP agencies, make sure you're on the low-income rate in the first place. If you think you qualify and you're not on it, definitely call us on that one.
And then,
and our operators, by the way, we have 27 languages that we speak, so if someone calls, sometimes I'll find that someone will tell me their neighbor had a question, but they didn't call because they didn't think their English was very good, and I say, don't worry about it. Either have someone else call and make the introduction, or just call and just say what language you want to speak, and we can tap into any translator, so we can help all our customers.
And just my last question anyways, Christmas is obviously coming up, and I know a lot of people do the big displays perhaps. Is there any sort of rate difference there for the high usage, or you just kind of, if you're wasting all that electricity, then you should be paying
No, that's
for
a
it?
choice you'd have to make, yeah.
Okay, that's all I have. The manager?
Two comments for the council. First, just want to echo what Marcy has indicated with respect to pricing. We are outbidding the town's electric utility pricing right now. We've actually bid it, I think I'm into the third round. We keep bidding and hoping to get a better result. But we're discussing with the broker community that we use for the bidding, and they're all reporting the same phenomena, exactly what's been explained. Gas pipeline shortages. As the council is also aware, I assist the town of Northfield part-time, and we are up there involved in that Kinder Morgan proposal to build a second pipeline. And so we've become very knowledgeable about this issue. And that probably will have a beneficial effect, but that won't be for 2 or 3 years. In the meantime, gas supply shortages are going to cause a spike in pricing, and there's simply nothing anyone can do about it. It's not National Grid's fault. It's not any of the other suppliers' fault. It's just the reality of the marketplace. Second thing I wanted to mention to the council is that in other communities where I've served, I've worked extensively with National Grid and with Marcy in particular, and there's always a temptation, to blame the utility and beat up on them for price increases. And I have been an aggressive advocate on behalf of my communities in the past, but I will say that National Grid and Marcy in particular have been a consummate professional in dealing with the town, and they've done a great job in being a real assist to the community. So I wanted to be sure to add those comments, lest people think it's simply a matter of, let's blame National Grid, because that's not what's causing this situation. And that's the plain, honest truth.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Pecos, and I would just add to that I totally get that people want to blame us because it's us who send the bill. So people really don't understand their electric bill. They just get it says National Grid at the top, and they assume it's us who's making the change. So that's why I love to come out and talk about it, so.
Any other Councilor Steves?
Yeah, one thing I want to ask about is, you mentioned the low income rate. Is there a specific actual income level that qualifies?
I'm sure there is, and I don't know the answer. We'll have to come back to you. It's income dependent, so I'm sure it is.
Because our town is fairly low income on average.
That's
in
why I
general.
suspect that plenty of our customers here, your residents, are on the rate, but can we come back to you with that tomorrow?
Yeah, sure.
okay.
One of the things I was wondering also about is that, for example, you talk about the rates that you're paying, if I remember correctly, comes out to a total of about 22 cents.
24 cents.
24 cents. Thank you.
24 cents. Yeah.
How is it that you guys have 24 cents, but I also am aware of the fact that the Hampshire Council of Governments has 12.6 cents?
The which who?
Hampshire Council of Governments has a 12.6 cent rate?
I'm not familiar with who you're talking about, but everyone, so to Mr. Pago's point, everyone has, are they a co-op or a municipal?
Yeah, they're a municipal buying group, essentially.
Okay, so that's probably the cost of their supply. That 12.6, if that's what you just said, is analogous to our 16.
It's the COG, it's what's called the COG, Council of Government.
Right.
That's actually the government entity that we're bidding electricity through for the town of Northfield.
Okay.
And their pricing is reflective of a bid placed early in the year and locked it in before, and it's before prices start to rise. It's a blended rate over time, so it does not reflect month over month. It reflects a 12-month blended rate, and that's why they got what they did. But compare that, where that rate is now, to the 7 cents per kilowatt that we're paying right now until our contract runs out in a few months.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad rate, but it's only one piece of the overall rate that we're talking about here.
Yeah, that is, thank you for clearing that up, because it's another common misnomer. The 12.6 is the apples and apples with the 16 that I'm talking about. Our 16, standing here right here today, is 7 cents until the end of the month. So it's always that supply piece. And the other point, I talked about NU and when they're doing their pricing and Unitil. If you live in a municipality who has a local municipal electric department like Paxton or Shirley, Holden, they do have sometimes very long contracts, and so it does depend on the makeup of it. So it's not apples and apples.
Yeah, and another question I was wondering, some of the stuff that I've read about the Kinder Morgan pipeline is that it's actually intended for export. How would that actually help our rates, even if it does get built?
Well, I'm not so familiar with what Kinder Morgan is doing. I know they are trying to build a pipeline. There's another company called Spectra, which has another couple pipelines that they're looking at. They're the main reason why these companies want to invest in gas pipeline capacity is to bring gas to the region, mostly for electric generation, but also for basic gas use. We're also a gas company, and so people are using, they're converting from oil to gas at record numbers, and so just regular customer use of gas is growing as well. What you might be referring to, but I'm not sure, is there's been a lot of chatter in the market around someday would the U.S. Reverse itself. Right now, there's some imports of gas. Would we ever turn around and start exporting it if we had all of these supplies? I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would find it pretty hard to believe that people would pass the gas through New England with the political pressure that is on it to stay here to generate electricity before they probably liquefy it and put it on a ship, which is probably what but you'd have to have them in here to have that conversation. I have no idea what you're talking about. We don't also, just so we're clear, we don't have any sort of ownership interest in any of these pipelines. They are the ones who feed these electric plants from whom we buy the power. So sometimes I feel a little hamstrung. I can't answer the questions because we're not them.
One thing, when I was looking at your website, and it kind of a couple things kind of jumped out at me that really kind of bothered me. They come to have a few red flags. You mentioned no ownership interest in the pipelines, and that's fine as a company. But I did notice that at least one, your executive director is a former Kinder Morgan person.
Yes.
I noticed that at least one of your other board members is a Spectra person.
That's correct.
How does that factor into the way you set rates and how with the way you work with these pipelines?
It doesn't at all. It's an irrelevant fact. Tom King is the one you're referring to, who
Yes.
at a
Yes.
point earlier in his career worked for Kinder Morgan. And I don't know who worked, do you remember who you looked at, who worked for Spectra?
I can't remember
It's a
her
pretty
name.
small industry, I have to be honest.
Yeah, I can't remember
So
her name,
people
but-
change companies, but the people who, within National Grid, who go to the market and procure power, don't go to Kinder Morgan and Spectra. They, in fact, go to NRG or Dominion. These are the big generating plants that you
Right.
see. And they go to, those people put bids on the table, and we take the bottom one, period. There's no subjectivity in what we do. It's all the lowest bid, period.
Real quick, the manager has a comment on that
Gus,
as well.
if it helps, Kinder Morgan is a company that just owns pipelines. That's literally all they do.
Yeah.
And they don't own the gas that moves through it. They just own the physical pipeline. And they contract with other people who supply the gas that moves through the pipeline. Big bulk contract, so if that helps.
All set?
For the moment, yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Councilor Manna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just want to know, I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Marcy Reed, yeah.
Thank you. To Marcy, the home energy programs, does National Grid, do they still offer that to their customers?
Are you talking about the energy efficiency programs?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely we do.
Because I know that could save a lot of money for people.
It sure can, and when I was talking earlier about trying to cut back on what you use, it's both just your own personal usage, but by doing energy efficiency projects. In fact, here in the town, we just completed 2 energy efficiency projects, in partnership with you, one at the wastewater treatment plant, one at the water treatment plant. And we gave you incentives of $66,000 to do that. In the first year, you'll save $22,000 with a payback of 2 years. So it's no-brainer kind of stuff. And you can go on the website. In fact, if you call that same phone number I gave, or is it 1-800-MASS-SAVE? Is the other one? MASS-SAVE. So you dial the phone number that I gave you, it's fine. They can point you in the right direction of what can you do as a homeowner. And sometimes it's as simple as, weather stripping and, energy-efficient light bulbs, a programmable thermostat, different things like that, none of which are high dollars. If you call and you get a home audit, it's a little bit, the line for those right now, this time of year, what I've heard is that they've been pretty popular. The state actually runs those and we implement it. So the line to get a home energy audit right now is probably a couple months long. But when they show up at your house, they bring you free light bulbs, free thermostats. They'll tell you where to put the weather stripping. I did that too. I took a day off from work one day to have the people come to my house so I could see what the customer experience was like. And I actually thought I had hit the lottery. They left me so many light bulbs. So it's really something. And we try to tell our customers this: call MassSave, call National Grid, sign up for an energy audit, because the programs that the state funds are pretty lucrative, and people should take advantage.
And that was my next question. It's at no cost to the customer, correct?
Yeah. So yes and no.
Well, they still...
In that 8 cents, that we control,
Yeah.
the state tells us, spend X amount this year, X amount next year on energy efficiency. And so we charge, in that part of that 8 cents, a 0.5 cent, I'm sorry I don't have the exact detail, but it's a fraction of a penny. And you pay it. In fact, if you go home, you dig out your National Grid bill, and you see a charge either called energy efficiency charge, it might say conservation charge, it'll be a fraction of a penny. So we all pay into this kitty in all of our electricity bills, so that when you call and you get the free audit, the free advice, all that kind of stuff, in theory, you've sort of paid for it. It's embedded in the rate that they make us charge.
So you would encourage us to call because we're already paying for it.
Yes.
And it's at no extra cost.
That's right.
Okay.
So
Thank
the
you very
town of
much.
Southborough itself was very
Southbridge.
smart to have called.
Southbridge.
That's what I said.
No, you said Southborough.
Oh, Southborough, sorry, that's where my
okay.
dentist is. You should know better. I grew up going to Notre Dame over on Marcy Street, which I always thought was a hoot, just because that's my name. And except if my grandmother wanted to go to 4 o'clock Mass, then we had to go to St. Mary's. But sorry, that's not the question you asked.
No, thank you very much. You were very helpful.
And just briefly, we want to obviously thank you for the grants that you've offered, because they have helped out and will help out, especially with a lot of the wastewater treatment plant work that's a monster. And any other money you want to throw at us, we'll be more than happy to take.
Happy to do it. Talk to
Excellent.
Colleen.
We can work that out.
There's actually some school work that we're looking at right now. Chillers and lights.
Excellent.
Yep.
Councilor Cummins?
Thank you. I'll try to keep it short here. Just a couple of things. So there isn't a shortage on gas, rather a shortage on the delivery of that gas. Because what I read in the information is that there's lots of gas in the U.S., and that's why everybody was converting, and gas is going to be the greatest thing, except the ability to get that gas to the customer.
That is exactly it. The nation has no shortage of natural gas.
Right.
We have a shortage of the highway to get it to New England.
Okay.
Nowhere else in the country are we having this conversation, because everyone else has pipelines.
Right. And it's my understanding, maybe I'm wrong, but I want to make sure that if it is correct, I'd like to know it. Federal regulations, have they not changed and made renewable resources or clean energy the way that you need to create this electricity? And therefore, we're scrambling to get this gas in, get the pipelines, get whatever we need to do, because gas is one of those items that are cleaner, obviously, than you said, as coal and such. My understanding that it kind of comes from the top down, especially in our area.
It's cleaner. It's not, gas is not considered a renewable
I know it's
energy
not
source.
renewable,
So your typical renewable energy sources are wind, solar,
Right.
biogas, and the state does have certain targets for how much utilities, how much renewable energy utilities should procure, and we've always been at those targets, because we actually believe that that's an excellent source of energy for our customers.
Okay, great. And finally, to Mr. Pecos, I know you're out there looking for cheaper energy for the community, but should we not find that lower bid or too much, how is this going to affect our budget going forward if we're looking at a 30%, or where are we at as a community versus the general public in terms of the budget?
I can pretty much assure the council, no matter what sort of result we get through the bidding process, and I'm actually doing a variety of things. I'm using a broker, I'm going direct to the market, and I'm also using a municipal consortium that buys power on a very, very large basis, and kind of comparing and contrasting between the three. No matter how you cut it, prices are going to go up. The problem is they're going to go up over the winter, for exactly what Marcy's already said. They're going to come back down next summer.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're looking at a blended rate. There's not a whole lot of flexibility, choice, or whatnot, because the rates I'm getting might be a half, quarter penny difference. So there's not really a whole lot of flexibility in the so-called bid system. The real question becomes whether you go with a 12-month bid, a 24-month bid, or a 36-month. And that's really trying to crystal ball the marketplace and what it's going to do. And you'll be hearing more about that, because I'll be bringing that to the council once that bidding's all done.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Councilor Steves?
Yeah, well, you were mentioning the idea a couple of seconds ago about the whole issue of the grid, and I lost exactly how you phrased it, but it made me think of the idea of with the closing of the coal plants like Brayton Point and Mount Tom, opening up, so to speak, some space in the energy grid. How much capacity do you see for alternative energy in the next couple of years?
Well, right now,
And how can
about
we promote
half is natural gas, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
Salem Harbor's another one that they just closed for coal. They will refire it with gas. Any of the plants that are still burning oil or coal probably will be closing due to EPA regulations. Those, because these are all long-haul investments, it takes 2 years or so to build these things.
Right.
Those companies will probably repower with gas. Or my hope, actually, is that if other projects can come online that would bring renewable sources to the region, that is a more economic choice. So if we, for example, if some company built large-scale wind, terrestrial wind in northern New Hampshire or something, and then if we would build a transmission line to it, still a long-haul proposition, takes 2, 3, 4 years to build a transmission line, that can be more economic power.
What about more decentralized sources, smaller scale? Like, there's a couple of proposals for solar here in town, for
Absolutely,
example.
and just a lot of that. So this year, in 2014, National Grid will connect 300 megawatts of power to the grid of solar alone in Massachusetts. The state goal is to have 1,600 megawatts by 2020. We're not quite halfway with that. We will absolutely, we, the state, not National Grid, the state will meet that target. And so a lot of either towns with old landfills, large box stores, some farmers, people will call up and say, hey, I want to put solar on my land. They'll get a solar developer to do it for them. They call us up and we'll attempt to connect it. There's some engineering things we have to hoops we have to jump through, but there's solar popping up all over the place, and that will help this.
Is there any way to make some of those localized solar projects actually help provide energy to the town, as opposed to being sent, say, to Groton or some other
The
source?
town would have to do that. If the town decided to have a solar farm that it used for its usage, it can do that.
I meant for town residents.
Oh, I'm actually not familiar, but it wouldn't be too far out of the realm of possibility for some sort of a consortium to look at something like that. I mean, you could physically make it happen, I guess is what I'm saying. There's nothing stopping it from happening. It would become its own little alternate supplier, in a way.
Okay,
Yep.
All set?
I think so.
All right, seeing nobody else, I'd like to thank you for your time and
Thanks
your
again.
efforts here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are we okay to leave, or might there be questions later?
No, we're fine.
Just want to make sure I don't do the wrong thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you.
See you later.
Moving on to 7B, we have from the Southbridge, the Greater Southbridge Area Relay for Life American Cancer Society, we have an ACS staffer, Lauren Falco, and a couple of the chairs, Jackie Bronya and Katie Hafner.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Lauren Falco. I'm from the American Cancer Society. I have the honor of staffing the Greater Southbridge Relay for Life. So we just wanted to share a little bit with you about what Relay is and how it helps the American Cancer Society. So I'll just start by telling you a little bit about what exactly Relay is, in case you haven't heard of it or haven't been to the Greater Southbridge Relay event. Relay for Life is an overnight fundraising event that brings together millions of people from across the country to raise awareness and funds for cancer research and patient services for the American Cancer Society. At Relay, teams form from your community. They set up campsites up at McMahon Field the third weekend in June, and they enjoy, music and games, and it's just a blast to go and see everybody gathering together to raise awareness for cancer and honor survivors. Some of the ways we honor cancer survivors at the event are through a celebratory opening lap to celebrate their victory over cancer, and also a really nice dinner reception for everybody, all the survivors and their caregivers, to join together and talk about their experiences and just kind of get to meet other people who've been through similar situations. And then at night, after the sun goes down, we have a special lupinaria ceremony. We light lupinaria bags around the track, and everybody sort of walks around and they light these bags in memory of loved ones they've lost to cancer, or those who are still continuing through their treatments. Oops. I forgot to switch to the slide. I'll turn it over to Katie, who'll talk a little bit about our numbers throughout the years.
Great, thank you. My name is Katie Hafner. I'm one of the chairs for this year's Southbridge Relay. I've had the pleasure of being involved since 2009, I think, in this relay, so it's been really great. Relay is held in many, many communities across Massachusetts, across New England, across the country. I couldn't even tell you how many thousands of relays they are, but in this lovely relay, we've had the pleasure of being one of the top 25 relays in New England every year, and that's judged solely by the amount of money that you guys raise. So if you can see from, you guys might not be able to see the PowerPoint, but since 2000, 10, this community has raised over $200,000 a year, which is pretty impressive because we average about 800 people a year that come out to relay, and they make teams of all different sizes. We have teams of 2 to teams of 20, so it's really great to be able to bring everybody together like that. This year was especially awesome. We raised $219,623 with just people from this town, Dudley, Charlton, Douglas, all the way from Auburn and Oxford. People come and they come in the relay. So this year, that 743 people were actually the 12th relay in New England, which is pretty impressive. So to be this community kind of away from the big cities, and to just know that your friends, your neighbors, your hard-earned dollars, that's all donations that people have been able to secure over the years by asking friends and families, having car wash, having chili cook-offs. To be able to say that you're 12th in New England, that's pretty impressive. So we are definitely a proud group, and we're very excited to see what we're going to do for this year. Oh, wait, sorry. How do you go back? I forgot to say the most important number. So since the 17 years, so this is the 18th year for this relay, and over the last 17 years, again, people from your community, friends and neighbors, has raised over $3.5 million in Southbridge. That's just this relay. So if you think about, that old saying that, a small group of people are the only thing that ever changed the world, you really are a small group of people that are making huge differences for everybody's lives, whether it's somebody you know or someone you don't know.
Hi, I'm Jackie Brogna. I'm one of the chairs for this year. Do you want to know how you can get involved? You can start a team. You can join our committee and be part of the event leadership. You can join a team. You can volunteer. We have many different opportunities for people to volunteer the day of, the day before, the day after, or at events throughout now until the relay. Or you can register to participate in the Survivor Lap, which is extremely moving. If you haven't been there to participate in it, you should just come watch it.
I won't read all of these numbers, but this is just a little bit about where the money that's been raised in this community has gone to help patients and cancer research within New England. And we're very lucky in Massachusetts to have a lot of services and programs and research going on right in our own backyard. A lot of the hospitals where cancer research is done at are right here, up in Boston, even Worcester. In Worcester and Boston, we have 2 Hope Lodge facilities, which is basically like a hotel for patients going through cancer who may not be able to get to their treatments. They're from states away, and it's a place for them and their families to stay at no cost. And we are fortunate to have 2 of those right here in our own state. We're also fortunate to have some fantastic relay volunteers who are volunteers for our Road to Recovery program, which provides patients rides to and from their treatments, and also the Look Good, Feel Better program, which is offered at a lot of hospitals in the area, and that provides women going through different cancers the opportunity to meet with hairdressers, cosmetologists, to sort of help them with ways to, make themselves feel better about themselves. Different ways to, wear their hair with wigs and makeup tips and things like that. So we're very lucky to have all of that, and I'm very thankful for all of the donors and fundraising that's gone on in this community to support those programs. So why do we relay? It's pretty simple, and I think that the volunteers here can tell you that we relay to finish the fight against cancer and to create a world with more birthdays. So we'd all like to encourage you to visit our website, www.relayforlife.org, and check out some ways that you can get involved right here in your own community. Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments?
Sure.
I just have one question. When is the relay this year?
Yep, very good question. This year the relay is June 19th through the 20th. It starts at 6 p.m. June 19th and goes until 12 p.m. The following Saturday.
Okay, I have Councilor Mann and then Councilor Straw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say thank you for all that you do in the community,
you.
not only at the relay, the big event, but throughout the year, too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Strada?
Where is the delay? Where?
What's that?
Where, McMahon Field.
Mammoth?
Yep.
I just wanted to note, too, that some of the relays around us, Woodstock, as an example, Woodstock, Connecticut, is one of the bigger ones, and they do so primarily through some really big donations from corporate sponsors and such, which is great, and that helps. But here in Southbridge, it's pretty much nickel and dimed. We don't have that big base, and we just don't get a lot of money that way. So I just wanted to say, that goes through the hard work of those who are here and those who are in the audience that are wearing the purple and the blue and white shirts even, that put on the events and things like that. And then just lastly, because I know a lot of people, sometimes people are uncomfortable or unsure, but as far as relay is concerned, the purple shirts go for those survivors. And what exactly qualifies you as a survivor?
So at the American Cancer Society, we qualify anyone as a cancer survivor from the date they've been diagnosed with cancer. They're a cancer survivor.
So even if you're not cancer-free, you are a survivor?
Yes, you're a survivor.
Because you are surviving at that point. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lastly, for our presentations, but not least, under boards and committees, Southbridge Cable Advisory Committee. And instead of being behind the camera today, in front of the camera will be Ray Gauthier.
Hi, I'm Ray Gauthier, Southbridge Cable Advisory Chairman this year again, my second year in a row. The makeup of the Cable Advisory was when probably Greater Media and then Charter, and we started having TV coverage of the town council and possibly the school committee way back 20 years ago. There was a group of people that, and we do it today, we work with the town manager, he's a licensing authority for the cable. We advise them on our policies, policy to run the station, for citizens to want to produce a show, what they can show and what they can't show in Southbridge, or what they can say and can't say. There's federal and state regulations we go by. We do have policies. We're always updating them, especially with YouTube now. We're going through it again this year. We work with the town manager, talk to him, this is what we're doing. As far as running the station, we have 3 people running it. We also work with the 3 people that he's hired, what the policies are, the working, what they're supposed to be running, what we do, and how they're supposed to act. That's all it is I said, mostly policy making and overseeing the TV, how it's run. And make sure, right now, we've just gone through, if everybody notices, we all went HD, all our equipment, which is paid for through people that have Charter TV. It's not taxpayers' money, it's Charter cable subscribers. The new stations are channel 191, 192, and 194 for HD. They changed the lineup, there's nothing we could do, nothing the town manager could do. It's a private business. But they have been working with all of us. So we haven't lost anything as far as Charter, not giving us anything. Every time we ask for something, we go through the town manager what we'd like to get, and he looks at it saying, yes, we need a sound system. It's paid for. There's still some updating coming up. Things are taking a while. We just don't do it overnight, but we're trying to get it within a week or two, a little faster than it used to be. Any questions about cable advisory?
Councilor, let's defer first to the manager.
I just wanted to make sure the council was aware, because I think I have been not forthcoming, and I apologize for that, Ray. But the new sound system is courtesy of Ray, the committee, Mike, who did the work with the vendor. And the reason this is fixed is because they did come forward with, I think, $5,000, right?
Yes, so far. We
kudos
still
to the-
want to change the mics themselves, the wiring, because, well, as a lot of you would know, they're over 10 years old, so they're, quote, outdated.
So
of today's
kudos, thank
standard.
you. And after this, anything that we can't hear, that's human error. So.
We do have switches.
Counselor Steves.
Thank you. One thing I was wondering, for the people out there who might be curious to how to get involved, how do people get involved in being cable programmers? What kind of training do they need? What kind of training do you offer?
Okay, what we offer, we have, like I said, Mike Montigny, James Cargrove, and Stacy. We have 19, per person, 19 hours a week, and there's different hours. Somebody's always here most of the time. You can call the station. There's a recording if no one's here. You can leave a message and we'll tell you there is hours they are here. And we do have equipment. They can use our equipment. We will show them how the cameras work, all the microphones that go with it, everything that goes with it. They can film, they can come back. We have editing equipment in the back. You can sit there on the computer and edit it. We like to edit to get it down to like half-hour increments, an hour increment, shows like that, because there is no commercials.
Right.
We do have a scroll playing to fill in time. We love to have more people come down. We've had people in the past. We've got some people coming down. Some of them have their own cameras, which is okay, providing we can use their memory stick or something with our equipment. That's why we'd rather use ours or the community's equipment. We have everything here. Like I say, we'll be probably showing everything when it's all done. We've got a new studio. We're allowed an area. We have our control booth, our workstations back there. So people can come in and do a show. People wanted a place to come in and film. We used to use this area on weekends and at nights. We do have our own area now. We can do a small show. But you can also do something, landscaping at your house, and edit it, things that you want to see in there. You know, you probably don't want the dog in there. You can edit it out. Things like that. We'd be glad to work with you. We have, like I said, 3 capable people that'll do it. There's also some of us volunteers, been doing it a long time. We would come in and help out if they're all tied up. But anybody can call the station and schedule a time, and like I said, we'd be glad to show them what to do. People get nervous in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Some people don't. But to make a show, I've done some shows with an idea. Doesn't always work out. You come back here, I shouldn't have shown a foot. You take it out. You want to see good things, and that's why a 2-hour show, believe it or not, is probably 10 hours worth of work in the back. So it is a little bit of commitment, but it's a lot of fun after. When you see it on TV after, you tell your friends it's going to be on twice a day at different times, and they're home at 6 o'clock, I'm tired of the news, put on our station, hey, there's me. A lot of fun. Even, I've talked to some of those clubs and everything else. I've filmed them in the past, like the Exchange Club and everything. We try to get one of their members to maybe get a camera, film it, we edit it for presentations because they present the police and the fire department and kids awards. If they let us know ahead of time, one of us will go out and film for people. But we also have to know ahead of time. A lot of us are volunteers, love doing it, but can't ask me Monday night for a Monday night presentation because there's other things in life.
Right. If somebody wants to submit something, how do they do it?
They would see Mike or Jim. There is some forms to fill out because, we want to make sure everything's okay.
Right.
So we do not monitor it or anything, but there is, like I said, we get guidelines we go by.
Right.
These are the federal and state things. This is not New York City where everything's shown. There's guidelines, so you got to go through the guidelines. Like I said, if they submit their own, it's got to be compatible with our equipment.
Right.
Most things are, but there might be that one out there that's not compatible. We got to put it onto something else to play it. But there is, the number to call, and like I said, Stacy, Jim, or Mike, and they're more than willing to walk you through it. If you're nervous, go over it a few times. Jim will be glad to sit down and show you how to edit. He loves doing that. I love going out filming my thing, and Tommy loves sound in the back. He does a lot of filming. Tommy, he's been here a long time. So anybody has any questions, just like I said, call this number. I forgot it offhand. But.
And lastly, is everything you guys broadcast on the YouTube channel? Or is it on some
You'd
other-
have to ask Mike on that.
Yeah.
He runs the station. I believe a lot of it is now, because of what's happening today's technology. But a lot of people rather just sit, on the TV, and that's it. They don't go to YouTube. They don't on the laptop or anything like that. They just they pay for the TV. They're going to watch it.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Gauthier.
Okay, if there's any other questions, like I said, feel free to call. We do have a cable advisory meeting once a month. It's posted because I changed the dates. It's usually about 6 o'clock at night, 6:30. If there's anybody that wants to come down, the public is more than welcome. Doors are always open. Like I said, just for the posting. And come in, if you got comments, we've had some people come in with comments and questions. Feel free to stop in.
Excellent.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you again. All right, moving on to agenda item number 8, Citizens Forum. So if we have anybody in attendance who would like to speak on something that is not on tonight's agenda, now would be the time. And if you're doing so, just come up, state your name and your address, please.
Once again, we meet up. No changes in the town. We got the police watching the sidewalks and the construction areas very good. Where is our safety? Where is the management? We need a leader. We need more protection. We cannot walk into a police station and end up in an argument that was civil people that argue amongst each other, not the religion of civil. We need more leadership. We need kind and caring people, not somebody who is very smarter than me. I only got a third-grade education. I'm being bullied every day. Where does bullying come from? The drug dealers, their gangs, they have people on the police force, they have people in the law enforcement agencies. I cried like a baby the other night. They banged and banged on my wall. But my TV was up just a little bit. But I hear them having sex. I hear them doing drugs. That's okay. But they have people on their side. I believe in God. That's why I'm not running. I'm not running from any of you. I'm standing here as a gentleman and the mercy of God. Let's wake up when they fought the street. Market building that I saw right across the street from a bicycle shop, a business, a bank, a library. On the street is a chain of Southbridge, and I'll say it to 1 million people. Stand up. We do need leadership. Somebody who we can follow and admire. Not somebody, although he's gonna go to a chief, and I'm a civilian. I didn't read my books. I read the Bible. And nobody can take God's people. Nobody. And I'm not saying things right every day. Always I'm asking all of you, wake up. Thank you very much. God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you, Mr. Passat. Do we have any other residents who would like to come forward to speak on something not on tonight's agenda? If so, just come forward with your name and your address, please.
Good evening, Kevin Buxton, 28 Columbus Avenue. I'd like to speak to the council tonight on a couple of curbside issues. One thing I found out today is this week is the beginning of the curbside pickup for lawn and leaf debris. I did make a trip actually to Gulfwood Road to dispose some material. I had the ability to borrow a truck and took advantage of it. I'm thankful that the season's coming once again where I can put my curbside out and have it disposed of. Calling the Board of Health and finding out that it starts today, she mentioned you can put out your paper bags, and hopefully there hasn't been any change in the policy, but I personally find it more practical to use open plastic containers, which is allowed in the for lawn and leaf waste. I do use some paper bags if I should mulch it up with a vacuum, but in most cases, especially during rainy seasons, the paper bags cause an issue, and I have available trash containers. Open containers are still acceptable for lawn and leaf waste, correct? Well, I'll find out if they're not. I'll find out Wednesday if they're not. The other situation with curbside is in last town council meeting and listening to the chairman from the Board of Health discuss, there was some discussion about various things the Board of Health is working on, and I heard a comment made about attached lid containers again. I actually brought this is the second time I brought my little prop here to I'm a little concerned that now for at least the third time, we're looking at a smart cart system for our trash. Starting out with the simplest problem with smart cart, our bylaw states a tight lid. Well, we wouldn't exactly call that a tight lid. That's the simplest of really the problems with the idea of putting a uniform card system for trash. One of the biggest points in both time the smart card system, I just happened to be here in the audience and had to come up here and defend or try to persuade the council. Both times the council voted it down. One of the major conflicts is the conflict with the contract. The only aspect of the landfill contract that directly relates to residents, and it's really something that I've always said is really the only thing that we received as residents, and that is unlimited trash. If you go to a single container, you're restricting that clause. As somebody who does a lot of recycling, yes, I can go through, my container is actually not as big as my trash container is not as big as my recycling container, and I don't need another 89-gallon tote to drag around my property. I've had a trash can, 2 trash cans actually. They're probably about 15, maybe 20-gallon size. On rare occasion they get too heavy, I have to use the second one. They're rarely full by content. But like I said, if you, in discussions with Board of Health directors in the past, Mr. Moran was the one that brought the smart card system up twice. He commented that, oh, well, we can get around that. If you need more volume, we'll drop off another tote, or we'll do. I've had situations in the past with a flooded basement where I've actually borrowed trash containers. I've followed the rules and regulations, make sure they were in good operating order with tight-fitting lids, and I put out 6 or 7 trash cans. I'll agree, there was quite a hoopla, and we passed out a lot of fines and everything about people stacking trash bags in the street, and we wanted to see that gone. We have the bylaw there. We can emphasize that, yes, trash containers have to be used. So there's the conflict of restricting the amount of trash that a citizen could put out by the curbside if we go to everybody gets one of these. The other major
Just Mr.
problem.
Babson, you're at the 5 minutes, so if you want, we can hold a
yes,
vote.
could I have another 3?
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
How many more minutes?
Yeah, just the 2.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor? Okay, go ahead.
The other major issue with this, I don't even know if it's a program yet. I haven't heard anything come through the meeting, is the cost. Now, the town of Southbridge, any cost associated with curbside pickup is the responsibility of the contracted landfill operator. Any cost. So if you really can't get away from this idea, if you think the biggest thing Southbridge needs for beautification is for everybody to have a uniform trash can, do not expect the taxpayers to pay anything. In the past, Mr. Moran had commented that, oh, we'll get grant money. Well, grant money is tax money as well. And then the second time that he presented it, he said, well, we have $74,000 in the recycle reward funds that comes to the Board of Health. He was intending on using that. I'm sorry to say that we've yet to come up with a recycle reward program, and we've used that money for various reasons over the years, obviously, because otherwise we'd have probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $350,000 to $400,000 in the account if that $74,000 a year was put there since 1978. My biggest and most awkward question to the council or the town manager or anybody else that can answer it is, with these points, who paid for the stockpile of totes that are sitting down at the Gulfwood Road property right now, right next to the yard waste dumpsters that I utilized this weekend?
I apologize, but I'm not familiar with that. If someone could help me. The what pile, I'm sorry?
There's stacks and stacks of totes sitting down on the Gulfwood Road property right next to the roll-offs for the lawn and leaf waste. And I'm just curious if we're not using, I've paid pretty close attention. I haven't attended a lot of meetings lately, but when I do, I seek out the replays. I want to know, how come these toters have suddenly shown up on town property? And I'm just curious, who paid for them?
I haven't got any idea. I apologize, but I don't even know where they are. These are green barrels or the small totes?
No, these are full-size totes. I believe they're either a very dark, it looks like a dark color, almost like a black.
Recycle totes or trash totes?
Trash tote. They're not recycled totes.
Sorry.
The full-size green barrels?
The full-size ones.
And they're showing up on town property?
They're sitting stacks this high, right next. You have the chain link fences where you have the roll-off dumpsters for your lawn and leaf waste. There is stacks and stacks and stacks of them sitting there right inside the fence. So obviously, DPW or somebody has to know where they came from and who might.
I'll defer to the DPW director right behind you.
All right, and like I said, that's my question. I'll start going to the Board of Health meetings and see if I can get this cleared up. I can't see us going around and around and around and not really gaining any grounds on recycling or trash reduction. Thank you.
There are trash toters being stored at the DPW building facility right now for the Board of Health. I do not know what funds or anything they use to get them, but there are toters being stored down there. I believe it's for some upcoming project they have, specifically more towards the renters and landlords.
Do we have any other citizens who'd like to step forward? If so, just name your name and your address, please.
Good evening. John Pulaski, 3 Jennison Street is where I live. And tonight, this was the first I heard about the alleged smart cart. And it's been voted down a few times, as I recall, even, in fact, something I admired about her, Councilor Nicola. She understood, at least, she understood that night what it is to be a councilor. She was opposed to the smart carts, but she knew from phone calls and comments made by citizens that they weren't a popular idea, and she even voted against her own personal belief because she wanted to be a good councilor and support her constituents, and I thought that was very considerate of her. But this is just an opinion, but ask around from people in the industry. Choose my words carefully because I don't want to seem against any company. But it seems to me that smart cart programs and programs like them are more to make a company more attractive to a potential buyer because it simplifies the portion of our contract in which they have to pick up our waste. And it also, not inadvertently, but intentionally, reduces the amount of waste that we bring up to the landfill. And reducing waste to the landfill is a good idea, but when we slogged through that process where we had the minor site assignment, there may be a major site assignment coming up because the size of the landfill may be expanding with some of those other lots. But we were promised at first, I've got the video, cash for our recyclables. Then it became coupons, and then it became no coupons, then it became, well, punishment for not adhering to the program. And yet, I think national average, it's not criticism of the company, about 1/3 of what goes into recycle bins does not get recycled. In fact, 72,000 tons, that's a lot of former recyclables, are buried up at that landfill. Now, there's a lot of suggestions that were made, and some that were not allowed to be made because we weren't allowed to give our closing statements during the site assignment hearings. Ways to expand the lifespan of our landfill, which, although money is an important concern, the lifespan of that landfill is very important because all one needs to do to get out of that 25-year guarantee of waste removal is to file for bankruptcy. I'm not saying any companies think of filing for bankruptcy, but we're not really well protected. There was no bond to ensure that. And that costs a lot of money. And it's going to go up and up and up. I think we're getting, what, $5 or $6 a ton? It's going to cost us 10 times that to get rid of waste. So we're really selling space up there on the cheap. One suggestion that was made that never really even made it to the hearings was a consideration not only of weight at the landfill, but volume. I was going to discuss this in a future meeting, but I can bring you 10 pounds of polystyrene. Actually, I couldn't carry 10 pounds of polystyrene because of the space, but maybe just like 1 pound of glass that could fit in my left hand and 1 pound of polystyrene, like those styrofoam-like containers that they pack our meat or other things in, and it's massively different. Now, we were told by the experts it doesn't matter, that it can be condensed. It would be an incredible challenge to condense 1 pound of polystyrene And we have space. The earth underneath, the weight itself, is not the issue. It's the space.
Just, Mr. Polsky, we're
My
at
5
the
minutes.
5.
May I have just 1 minute without having to bother you with the...
If we have a...
The reason I walked down here...
Hold on, we just need...
Or if you're going to go to a vote, maybe 2 minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. But I didn't even come here, walk down here today to discuss this landfill issue. I didn't know about this subject. I haven't been going to the Board of Health meetings. I kind of get frustrated. For example, I brought it up here. They're putting cancer-causing, it's not disputable, it's not like global warming where people are questioning, cancer-causing cover up there. No one disputes that, to cover the trash on a daily basis. I don't know how it's getting by. Coal ash is the source. And it just got approved. The DEP doesn't allow it unless a town is foolish enough to vote for it. We were. And another disturbing thing about that, the chemicals in that disturb the microbe action, which causes the landfill to self-digest, to create that gas. And that's another reason. It's not only that it may cause cancer. We have a lot of good people in this town, people that made a presentation. We have Councilor Moriarty. You're well known for your, I don't know how you do it, your fundraising and the Little League and this, but you go through all that effort and right under our nose, an arm of our own government's approving this blight in our town. Okay, so enough on the landfill. People are sick of the landfill. Real quick, there's some shenanigans going on politically in town. Now, I'm not talking about people taking signs. That's been going on since cavemen were writing with charcoal, probably to elect their chief. But I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not going to mention any candidates. But I think, I saw the other day Jimmy Hoffa standing before a Senate committee talking about, they're talking about, figure of speech. They're talking about taking somebody out. We have someone in town who's little passionate about his beliefs. People can push his buttons sometimes. And he spends more time in jail already before a hearing
See, your 2 minutes are up.
than the person that assaulted me up at Big Bunny. I don't get it.
I understand, Mr. Polsky, but you're the 2 extra minutes.
Second 2 minutes, okay, but beware of political shenanigans where people get attention or alleged murder plots when I don't even think, although the local police did do a great job.
We understand.
Took
We
good care of
understand.
me. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Any other citizens who'd like to come forward as part of Citizens Forum? Seeing none, we move on to agenda item number 9. Vote to confirm the appointment of Donald Ouellette as temporary professional engineer effective Tuesday, October 21st, 2014, at 20 hours per week for a 3-month period or until a new DPW director is hired.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Vecchia.
I have a few questions through the chairman to the town manager. On Mr. Ouellette's, what's his, how do you pronounce his name, Ouellette, is that right?
Ouellette.
His resume states Town of Natick, May 2014 to September 2014. Why isn't he working there anymore?
I'd allow him to explain that, Mr. Chairman, if he chooses to.
Don Ouellette. I'm not sure what happened in Natick. I can tell you that I've been working since I was 7 years old, and it just didn't work out there. And for whatever reason, there was no negative aspect of my work. It was just they felt they needed to go in a different direction. So
You were only there for 5 months.
I was only there for 3 months.
3 months. Well, you just got here May to September.
Correct.
Well, that's more than 3 months, May to September. Is your resume wrong?
No, I stopped working there August 11th. They paid me through September 11th.
Okay. My next question is, Would you like to be considered for the permanent position?
I have applied for the permanent position.
All right. That's the only two questions I have for the candidate, but I have other questions, but...
Okay. Go ahead.
Whose place is he taking? Through the chairman to the town manager.
The town engineer is currently serving as the acting DPW director, so Dawn will be serving in her place.
Say that over again, please.
Sure. The current town engineer is serving as acting DPW director, which leaves the town engineer position vacant. Dawn will be filling that position.
And she'll go back into the other position?
Heather, as you may recall, had tendered her resignation some time ago from the DPW director position. We are in the middle of a recruitment for that. I expect it to take some 2 to 3 months. Hopefully, around the middle of November, we'll be interviewing with an appointment to take place in December sometime.
What about Heather? Where does she go from here?
Heather will go back to the town engineer position, and I'm actually considering upgrading that to an assistant DPW director position. Excuse me.
Okay. So we've been operating like this for how much time without a permanent DPW
I think for well over a year now, correct?
So why the hurry to do it now if we're going to be appointing somebody?
Because Heather is doing 2 jobs, and she is completely overwhelmed.
Yeah. Well, if I'm correct, we're going to be, if we approve this, we're looking at $1,200 a week for 13 weeks. We're looking at $15,600. Thank you.
Do we have any, Councilor Carrasco?
Yes, this item, I am not understanding properly because it just came out of kind of nowhere. Because I thought back in May when I made a petition in regards to a salary increase, the whole reason she was getting a salary increase is because she was doing 2 jobs. So now we are hiring a replacement because she is overwhelmed. But back in May, that was not an issue. So it's going to cost us now an additional
$15,600.
$15,000. And back in May, I was debating a $20,000 raise. So it's going to cost us now about $36,000. When this is something that we as a council agreed that she was going to do, and that's why it was given to her. I just, again, it's just, I mean, and again, it's a 3-month period or until new DPW. If it extends, it can cost us up to $72,000 for a year. If you multiply it at 52 weeks. So I'm troubled. I'm just troubled.
Mr. Manager?
Heather is receiving the DPW director salary. It is 1 salary for 1 job. That is the budgeted salary that she's receiving. She's not receiving a stipend or any additional pay for doing 2 jobs, which she's been doing for quite some time now. Secondly, there will be no extension of this unless for some reason we are unsuccessful in recruiting a DPW director, in which case we'd reevaluate whether we have a need for this. But we're coming into the winter season when we're going to have the normal workload that the DPW has, as well as the winter plowing and all that. And it simply is not possible for Heather to continue at this pace without some help. Mr. Roulette, as you probably read from his resume, is a professional engineer, a PE. He has great experience as a DPW director. I myself worked with him, appointed him to the Ashburnham DPW director position and worked with him for 2.5 years there, and can speak personally to his skills and professionalism. And I believe he will add a great deal in the capacity of helping Heather with a lot of the projects. For instance, the council has asked about the pavement management system. That is stalled right now because we simply don't have enough manpower, brain power, if you will, to get it going. I'm very hopeful that Don will be able to assist Heather with getting that project brought to fruition. And my intent is, when we come back to the council with a capital budget for road repair, that we will at long last have a working pavement management system that Don helped us set up. There are other projects we'll have him work on as well, but that's a good example of things that we simply cannot get done that I know are very high priorities for the council. One person can't do the work of two people, no matter how hard she tries. It's just not possible.
Just in response to our town manager, I understand what you have stated, but during our budget process in May, this was a major concern of mine in regards to being able to provide somebody a pay increase that's not fit, she is fit educational-wise, but she has not received her current licensing. So for me, that was a very difficult decision to go with. And the argument that I received from several counselors, well, is she's doing two jobs, so she deserves the pay raise. And now she got the pay raise, and now we're here kind of lightening her load. I just want to make it known that our decision-making sometimes is not very wise, because now this is costing us more money on top of what we've already voted on. That's all I got to say.
Councilor Vecchio?
The town manager, who's doing a good job, is definitely pro-employees. I'm pro-taxpayer, and I think we're not managing our money properly, and I have nothing against the candidate. He's got a tremendous resume, but I'm not going to vote for this. We're spending too much money. Thank you.
Councilor Steves?
Thank you. To the town manager, a quick question is, how much do we currently have budgeted for the DPW director's job and the town engineer's job?
The DPW director position, I think, is budgeted around $75,000, correct? That's from memory. I can go get the budget and look it up for you, but that's just memory.
I believe the director is around 90 and the chief engineering is around 75.
Okay, and how much of that is, and obviously I'm assuming that the director's salary is obviously being spent. How much of the engineer's salary is currently still available?
All.
All of it is?
Correct.
Okay. All set, Councilor Steves?
Thank you.
Councilor Clements?
Thank you. Councilor Steves brought up the numbers. I believe our previous DPW director was in the 110 range, 115 range before he left, with his PE intact. And as we know, our current interim DPW director has a PE. It's just not for here in Massachusetts. It's out in New York, and she has been trying diligently for quite some time to comply with mass, state, and federal laws to make that happen. Since it's not, obviously, we as a community need to move forward with what we need to do. In this case, we're trying to temporarily patch a hole, pun intended, with somebody who can help us with some of the projects that have been on the back burner due to our lack of having an engineer and a full-time, totally qualified as charter demands. So I guess I'm looking to, that's my statements, but at this point, we have the money in the budget. We have budgeted for this position because it was the intent, as I understood it back at budget season, to do exactly what we're doing. Either hire Ms. Blakely full-time because she was able to get her PE listed here in Mass, or to hire somebody to comply with our charter, which requires our DPW director to have a PE. We as council are very diligent about that. We know what the requirements are, which is why we did not hire her as a full-time DPW director without her meeting that criteria. So she has been in limbo doing double duty at a lower salary than we've probably paid ever since I've been on. And that's why I supported, and many others supported, what we did back at budget season. So am I clear on this? I mean, are we clear as a community that we are lacking in service to get things done? And we are budgeted for what we are anticipating doing forward. We're still saving money over what we were doing, say, 2 years ago. because we're still not at the high salary and we're not doing a full-time engineer. So we're still actually under budget in some ways.
All correct.
Thank you. That's my statement. Sticking to it.
We have Councilor Vecchia.
Every 2 weeks I sit up here and everybody keeps on saying the money's in the budget. I don't care if the money's in the budget. Can't we cut costs and save that money? We've been going along okay with what we have. There's mismanagement here. We have no free cash in the general fund. That scares me. We should have at least 5% of the budget, or at least it should be 10%, but even 5% of 50 million, we should have 2.5 million sitting in there. I'd like to save some money this time, so I'm not voting for this. Thank you.
Councilor Carrasco.
And again, I just want to reiterate some of the words that I said earlier. I think I wasn't here 2 years ago when Ms. Baker was appointed. Shame on that council, because if she wasn't in license, you know, she should have not been there. And this is something that I've said, and we need to hold people accountable. And unfortunately, I will also not be voting for this because this is costing us more money. If we do things diligently, you know, let's not continue to say, oh, you know, this happened 2 years ago. Another DPW director had 110,000. You know what? Yeah, that was back then. We're in now. We got to do it right now.
Through to yourself or to Heather, Ms. Blakely rather, what exactly will the PE be doing over these next few months in the winter here?
Projects that I've asked for specifically is the road maintenance plan. I'd like to get that in front of the council, and given Heather's day-to-day duties, it's simply impossible. The other thing, Don has great skill in managing snow fighting operations, and I think if Don is given that responsibility, it'll free Heather up from some of that day-to-day concern, and that will provide the town some real financial dividends, I think. Arguably, if, you know, they have the management capacity to be able to work on that, it is quite logical to assume that Don will save his entire salary and perhaps then some by being able to devote that effort to the snow fighting operation, which Heather simply cannot do operating alone. It's impossible. In addition to that, I don't know what else Heather would assign to him, but I just wanted to be clear, Don is working under Heather's direction. That is something of a bit of an anomalous situation because Don is extremely qualified and has been a DPW director for a long time, but we're not looking for him to be the director. We're looking for him to assist the current acting director. So Heather, over to you.
Yeah, I have a long list of different type of bids that need to go out for the townwide and to get ready for new Chapter 90 projects coming up and things of that nature to go along with our pavement management. But we have an HVAC bid that needs to go out. We have snowplow hire bids that need to go out. My list is very long, and these are the duties that I used to pull all this information together when I was Chief of Engineering, and it needs to be all gone through again. Every year we have to put a whole list of bids out. There also is there stormwater programming that needs to be put in place that somebody needs to oversee. We have wonderful grant opportunities where we're partnering with other towns, but we need to take full advantage and make sure that we're in compliance with all our stormwater management information. That permit's getting updated, and we need to know where we are moving forward with that. Those type of program things take a tremendous amount of concentration and dedicated time to it, which I cannot put in full 8 hours a day to get those type of things out. It's just impossible. With the phone calls that we received and the things and the emergencies that I'm battling every day. So he will help move forward some of those projects that just take too much time to dictate, where somebody needs to sit down and concentrate on just getting them done.
So if I understood at least the manager's comments then, in theory anyways, this appointment, this hire, would save money in terms of the snowplow operations, which are already fairly well regarded in terms of the job they do, but at the same time, especially last year, was a major bone of contention here in terms of basically the budget gap between, say, Southbridge and I believe former Council Langevin had pointed out Webster, similar highway miles and so forth, and just a gross difference between the two communities. So am I to understand that what you're saying is that by putting Mr. Ouellette in this position and putting the snowplow operation under his realm, that his salary of 15 or so would be negated or even surpassed?
I would say, because remember, this is up to a 3-month appointment, which would carry us through roughly the middle of January. So depending upon how much snow we get in that time period, would be partially bearing answer. Secondarily, I would say that by providing 2 managers who now are working on a variety of projects, and Don drawing on his enormous experience in snow fighting, I think that there may be some efficiencies that he can introduce that might be helpful to the town because of all that experience he's got, frankly. And I'm very hopeful that that would translate into savings, yes. But again, we're talking through mid-January at the penultimate, and if you don't get a lot of snow, there's not a lot of chance to save. But the very act of setting up plow routes, recruiting contract plows and all that, all also has the potential to save money. So, and I want to be careful and not be critical of last winter's efforts, because I don't know the circumstances that led to the expenditures. What I will say is that there may be opportunities here. Certainly by having 2 managers who are working on this stuff, we're going to get a much better product and a much better outcome, and that should translate into savings for us. And I frankly, I think we spent $650,000 in snow last winter. So if we got just a little efficiency, a few new ideas that Don brought, a couple of different techniques, it would be very easy to save $15,000 of that $650,000 we spent last year. Very easy.
So while the variable obviously is the amount of snow and the rate it falls and so forth, which we have no control over, if we were to take the percentage basically of what Southbridge spent and what Webster spent and kind of just come up with the aggregate percentage, in theory what you're arguing then is that by mid-January that percentage should be tightened.
Hopefully, sure. I mean, as in all things in life, whether it's fighting snow or managing a community or writing grants, greater experience and duration of time doing an activity teaches you how to be more efficient at it. And so I think Don has an opportunity to take that experience and translate into good benefit for Southbridge. He's been at this for 30, 40 years, and I think he's got a lot of talent in that area that can be very helpful to Heather.
Can I approach the microphone?
Sure, by all means.
You've had several topics that come up tonight. One was the landfill. I've capped 2 or 3 landfills in the town of Wayland. I went to the DEP and I said, look, we've capped 75% of this landfill. You're going to make us go through these 5 steps in order for us to cap the final 25%? I said, I don't believe we ought to do that. I believe we ought to just cap the landfill, get right to design. I said, we'll give you a letter and we'll turn around and do that. I saved the town $500,000. Just one simple point. The town of Ashburnham, I walked into Ashburnham, and quite frankly, it was a disaster. And 2.5 years later, I could account for $6 million in savings and grants that I was able to accomplish in Ashburnham. There's a grant out there called the STRAP grant. You probably have never heard of it, but it's Small Towns Road Assistance Program. There's money available for that, but you have to turn around and work with maybe Charlton or Oxford or one of your neighboring towns and try to come up with a roadway that needs to be worked. In the town of Ashburnham, I went out and did the survey. I did not hire somebody to come in and do the road survey. It was easy in Ashburnham because they all needed to be reclaimed and redone, but it was still something that I was able to accomplish. Snow and ice. And what I'm going to say to you right now is going to make no sense to you at all unless you really look at the numbers. The dumbest thing you can do in sanding and salting is to put sand down. And if you do it properly and you get out there and you pre-treat your roads, that salt that you're putting down on the roads is 7 times more effective in melting than putting the salt down afterwards, after the storm is taken out. Now, the old timers will argue that you need to put a little bit of grit in there. I disagree with them, and I was on their side up till 2 years ago. And when I went to one of the seminars, and then we tried it in Wayland, and quite frankly, we did about an 80% effort. But the difference was we finished street sweeping at the end of May this year, where the year before it was August before we turned around and done that. Not only that, you have to get rid of the sand afterwards. So it's not just the cost of buying the sand, it's also the cost of disposing of it. And that's another savings. Again, it just continues to compound. I can't guarantee you in 2 months or 3 months that I'm going to save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I can tell you right now, if you look at my track record, and I think it's pretty well detailed on my resume, I have gotten iced tea grants, I have gotten STRAP grants, I have gotten USDA grants. You don't deal with MWRA, but I've gotten money from MWRA. I've gotten energy, was Mass Electric, gave me one of my first projects, was I put a diffused aeration system into the wastewater treatment plant. Cost the town $150,000. We saved $50,000 a year in electrical cost alone, plus I got an $85,000 grant from Mass Electric. So it paid for itself in 14 months. You may turn around.
I don't mean to cut you off, Don.
But you got to run.
I think they get the point.
But thank you.
I have Councilor Steves and then Councilor Vecchio.
Actually, I don't know if this goes through to you or to Heather or to Don, but I noticed on your resume you talk a lot about water issues, and I actually talked to your successor in Wayland, and he praised you for your expertise in water. And I was wondering if you see yourself doing anything to help deal with primarily the sewer treatment plant in town, because it's a mess.
Again, absolutely. And when you look at my resume for air, you'll see the first thing I did was changing the diffused aeration system. But I also went from the headworks completely through that plant and rebuilt everything in that plant. So I have a pretty decent background in sewer as well.
What's that? Councilor Vecchio?
We keep on moving the shell game here. Town manager's talking about snow fighting, better efficiency, greater experience, new ideas. What do you think we've had DPW doing this for you? Dumbbells? I'm not voting for this. I mean, you can sell this any way you want, okay? But I'm not for this. I want to save some money. Thank you.
Councilor Clements.
All right. We've heard some great details from the candidate. It's wonderful. It's a testament to obviously to your profession and what you've been able to do so far. But I think we're missing the big picture here. Is it our intent to continue to have a DPW director and an engineer on our workforce? Is that what we're going to have as an employee lineup under
Yes.
DPW?
Yes.
And we are going to move forward, now that we have a resignation from the acting interim DPW director, that we are going to aggressively look for a full-time DPW director.
We are in that process right now.
And this position right now with Mr. Ouellette is not a DPW director, it's an assistant, it's whatever you're calling it here. It's some part-time position. So we need to realize that we are going to be putting these two positions, they are going to exist in our budget. They exist now, they're not being spent, yes, so the money comes back, it's there at the end of the year. But we need the work. We've been coasting, it sounds like, for about 2 years, coasting with what needs to get done, and before it catches up on us and it backfires on us, we need to continue the advancement of doing whatever it was, whether it was appointing permanently Ms. Blakely or hiring somebody new, and that was the intent of my vote back in the spring, that we would do something eventually. So we have two positions. We need to get the work done. We're not getting the work done. So I'm concerned for the community that we're not getting it done. And I sat in a DPW meeting where people were all over the place with pavement management system and how can we get the sidewalks done? How come we don't have a plan that gets all our sidewalks done and all our roads done and all our everything else done, all our parks done? We have it. We actually have a program, but we're not implementing it because we don't have the manpower to do so. And yet we're offered an opportunity for somebody with experience to come in and work on projects. and really just take up the slack of what we've been lacking for quite some time now. So I think this just makes sense, and maybe in the end, we'll have an opportunity to see Mr. Ouellette as a potential for the position that's still open. I don't have a problem with this. I think this makes perfect sense for the community. Thank you.
I agree.
Just one footnote before the council votes, having really nothing to do with the merits of the issue. In my zeal to extol the virtues of Mr. Ouellette and the talents that he can bring in the many, many years that of experience that he has, I do not in any way want that to reflect in any sort of a critical way on Heather. And the reason I want to be careful of that is because Heather has worked incredibly hard for this community, doing, in fact, 2 jobs for over a year now. And while people may have whatever opinion they choose to have about that service, the plain fact of the matter is she has worked long and hard, far beyond, frankly, a 40-hour work week, and I think deserves nothing but congratulations and thanks for what she's done. And I don't want this to sound in any way critical of her, because that would really be a shame. Thank you.
I would just also like to point out that the subcommittee, which vetted this last week, then we had a meeting, did give a favorable recommendation to council on it. The subcommittee consists of Councilor Vandal, myself, Councilor Estrada, and 2 citizens members, Mr. Moore and Mr. Coed. So, of course, pending information on financing or on salary. So just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Just as a note on my end, admittedly, I was unable to attend that meeting last week, so I was one of the 44% that was not there. And quite frankly, I'm still, at the moment, undecided. I know it was discussed, obviously. However, it was also literally a 13-minute meeting, so I'm not sure how deep it went. I do think the track record that Mr. Ouellette has outlined, in particular just a few moments ago at the podium, are very admirable. And quite frankly, I think a lot of that would be very beneficial when it comes to our next DPW director. Some of those items, however, are just not, in my opinion, pertinent to what we're looking for in the next 3 months or so. Certainly the capping of the landfill and so forth. But so at the moment, I've not decided what I'm doing. I see both sides of this equation, and you're still kind of bouncing it around in my head. Councilor Steves?
Oh, thank you. One thing I was thinking about is hearing this float around here. It makes me think of the fact that we're talking about pavement management, and I remember talking to former DPW Director Tom Daly at some length about that whole issue when he was trying to initiate the project in the first place. And he was pointing out about how one of the key elements of doing the pavement management thing is to basically, you get a plan for how to make sure that the roads don't fall off the cliff, so to speak. I think that may even be the way he phrased it. And the concern is that this particular vote to me is if you vote against something like this, I see this as saving a few bucks here, but in the long term, you will easily spend far more than that just repairing one road. Because if you don't catch these things at a certain time frame, it gets much worse, much more quickly than often we even expect. And our roads are already in a horrible shape now. So we're kind of a little behind the 8 ball. Let's not put ourselves behind a couple of them.
Any further conversation, discussion? Councilor Pelican?
I agree with what Councilor Steves brought up. Our roads are in bad shape, and we have a lot of work that we need to get done that hasn't been done because we've had somebody doing 2 jobs, and there's just been more work than she can possibly do, so I would be supporting this. Thank you.
Last call. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Estrada?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
Councilor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councilor Pelican?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yes.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
Councilor Vecchia?
No.
Councilor Crosco?
No.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
7 yes, 2 no.
Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item number 10, vote to reappoint Nicholas Trethway as auxiliary police officer for a 3-year term effective immediately through June 30th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
I don't know if the chief wants to, no? Councilor Vecchia.
We don't have any information on Nicholas Treadway. It's not in our packet. We don't have any information.
Yep, I'm just waiting for the chief to come up. I can tell you that he's been on for a while, but...
Good evening, Council. Actually, this was just an oversight on our part. The gentleman has been working for us and should have been reappointed with the other group. Just a name that we didn't get in front of you.
It was just an omission during the annual reappointments, Chief,
Correct, sir. Yes.
But we don't have any information on it.
We don't provide resumes on officers that are being reappointed typically.
Correct, sir. Typically, every 3 years, we do the reappointment process. Our auxiliary force is very eclectic, and we've got all kinds of different anniversary dates. My apologies, this wasn't included. It should have been. It was my fault.
Councilor Steves?
Just a good question. How long has he been in auxiliary?
I apologize. I don't know the exact service, Lieutenant. 5 years.
5 years.
5 years.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
Councilor Moriarty?
Yes.
Councilor Peliquin?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yes.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
Councilor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councilor Krasko?
Yes.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
Councilor Estrada?
Yes.
9 yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 11, vote to approve the police reorganization.
So moved.
Second.
And I will turn it over to the manager at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to try to take the council through this in 4 minutes or less, if someone wants to start a clock. And the reason I'm doing that is because it is getting late. I know the council has considered a lot of business tonight, but you asked me to look at the police department and consider a reorganization plan for it. I worked with the chief for 3 or 4 months now, as well as the lieutenant and the sergeant. There is a clock running. That's great. I can see that. I'll make it.
There's 2 clocks.
We wanted to consider what the best organizational structure for the police department would be. There are many theories with respect to how police organizations are set, but the dominant one deals with something called span of control, and that simply says if a police officer, superior officer, has more than 3 or 4 or 5 people reporting to him or her, then he or she cannot exercise proper management control. It is clearly evident in the literature that virtually all instances of police misconduct stem from a lack of training or a lack of proper supervision. For that reason, span of control is considered and agreed to be one of the most critical and fundamental parts of police organizational structures in America today. We are doing well on training. We can always improve that. But at the present time, the current organizational structure of the PD has somewhere around 9 or 10 or 11 direct reports for the lieutenant position. That needs to be remedied. Now, as I looked at it, it became evident that the council had made a very wise decision during the budget process this year when you approved funding for the chief's proposal to create a deputy position. Thus far, the deputy position has not been recruited, has not been filled. We will be in the process of doing that shortly. But with the deputy position not filled, the span of control of the lieutenant is simply excessive. He cannot exercise proper supervision. The reorganization plan focused on assigning duties to the deputy and filling it, to rearranging the duties of the lieutenant and filling that position, replacing the administrative sergeant with an administrative officer so that at the end of the process, what you see on that proposed organization chart is that no superior officer from the chief to the deputy to the lieutenant to all the sergeants has more than 3 or 4 or 5 direct reports, with one exception where there's, I think, 5 or 6, and we can't quite make the ratios exactly what we'd like, but we got them as close as we could. This will result, I think, in a superior organizational structure with a workload between those supervising officers is well balanced. It provides the opportunity to do some internal promoting, which is always great for morale. And ordinarily, when I look to do promotions, I tend to look outside to open it up, unless we've got an organization where you have excellent people already serving, and in our case, we have a large department, staffed with many, many excellent officers. And so as we fill those positions, I'll be looking to do internal promotional exams because we've got excellent people. So this also provides for an effective succession plan. And at the end of the day, I think what you have here is an organizational structure that will carry the Southbridge PD into the future for the next 10 years. I would say it's very much the case that the department will need to expand over time, and I think this organizational structure will allow it to do so without any need to tweak it for the next decade. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I will conclude my remarks, defer to the chief if he has anything to add, and answer any questions the council may have.
Okay, I'll open up the floor. Going once, twice. Okay. Roll call, please.
Council Moriarty?
Yes.
Council Peliquin?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yes.
Councilor Vandal?
Yes.
Councilor Vecchia?
Yes.
Councilor Crosco?
Yes.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
Councilor Estrada?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
9 yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Council, and I was very thankful for all the officers who worked so hard on this, and one I neglected, and I'm sorry, is I want to thank Mr. Pecos. He spent a lot of time with us trying to go through this, so thank you, sir.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 12, vote to approve the promotion of Lieutenant Shane Woodson to Provisional Deputy Chief pending results of Civil Service Assessment Exam.
So moved.
Second.
I guess, turn it over to Council Vecchia.
This, as written, vote to approve the promotion of Lieutenant Shane Woodson to Provisional Deputy Chief pending results of Civil Service Assessment Exam. You gave this sentence to Copeland and Page. They could come up with 4 different opinions what this says. So follow me through. Then the town manager can answer this through the chairman. It could mean we're voting for him to be the Provisional Deputy Chief. It could mean once he passes the assessment exam, he will be then the Provisional Deputy Chief. 3, could mean once he passes the assessment exam, he will be the Deputy Chief with the provisional title removed. Or 4, once he passes the assessment, we must then vote again for a Deputy Chief, and all candidates can apply, whoever takes the assessment exam. So I just gave you 4 different opinions what this could mean. So through the chairman to the town manager, what does it mean?
I would respectfully ask, and thank you for making that point, I would respectfully ask the council to make both of these motions, if it is your will to do so, to simply say, vote to approve the promotion of blank to provisional blank. No further conditions or language, because the intent is to have both of these individuals serve as the provisional officer until the permanent promotion is made. And I'm happy to give the council the timetable for the permanent promotion, so you'll see that that's not going to be a long time, hopefully.
So that means that they're just going to be in here, the both of them, until we put somebody in those positions permanently.
That's correct.
And it could, maybe it won't be them.
I will not presuppose the results of the promotion process publicly under any circumstances, no. I don't know who will be appointed to the permanent position until we go through the recruitment process.
I understand that. Thank you very much. That answers my question.
Any other questions? Councilor, Mr. Pecos.
Just a note for the council, and I know I made this point to the subcommittee, but I think it's very important to make this point publicly as well in the council meeting, because more citizens see this meeting because it's televised, and so I think it's important to note this. When it was brought to my attention that we had budgeted a deputy position and we had not yet filled it, I inquired of the chief what his recommendation was to get on with making the permanent appointment to fill the budget that this council had approved in the spring of this year. And as I've already said, I think the council made a wise decision because of the approval of the deputy position. You've allowed for that organizational structure to be put in that will carry the department well into the future. So we talked about the permanent appointment system and understood that that would take a considerable amount of time, particularly since it is the nature of these things when you stay within the department to do it, that you have to fill one position first and then fill the second position after that because of what they call bumping. Somebody moves up, somebody has to, then you get another vacancy, et cetera. So once I understood that there would be some period of time that it would take to fill these positions, the chief advised me that he recommended, and I certainly concurred, that we hire provisionals, people to serve in those positions until such time as the permanent appointment was made. I looked at his recommendations for the candidates before you, and then I looked at their resumes. So first I was convinced we should do this just because from an organizational point of view, we have these vacancies, we create budgetary positions, we should fill them. We shouldn't let them stay vacant. Logically, if we create these positions, we do so for a reason, and the reason isn't to leave them vacant, it's to fill them. When I then looked at the resumes of these two gentlemen, Lieutenant Woodson and Sergeant Dingy, I was as profoundly impressed with the qualifications of these two officers as I have been in my 4-decade-plus career as a public manager. Just to highlight and to remind you of things that I think you already know, Sergeant Woodson, one highlight out of his resume, managed to serve as a lieutenant while he was pursuing his master's degree and attain a 4.0 average. I don't know about everyone else in the room. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it without being in a full-time job. Quite a remarkable achievement. Sergeant Dingy, as you all know, is the heart and soul of the Cops and Kids program. He has done a remarkable job with that program and has offered to Southbridge's youth a tremendous opportunity in the summer that they would otherwise not have. Those are just two highlights out of these two gentlemen's resumes. I could frankly go on all night with the extraordinary and sterling qualifications of these two men. They have both served this community with distinction for close to 20 years in both cases. And I just can't tell you how proud I am to put their candidacy before you. I'm a newcomer here in town for sure, but boy, I'll tell you, you don't often get to do something and feel really good about it, and I feel very, very good about putting these two officers' candidacies before you. Admittedly, it's only provisional, but I wish them both and the other sergeants all the best of luck as we go into the permanent appointments. So I wanted to say that, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I thought that was important to have out there in the public.
I have Councilor Vecchia and then Councilor Carrasco.
But the point, through the chairman to the town managers, these are just temporary positions, and they might not be the final choices in the end.
That's correct.
Well, thank you.
Councilor Carrasco.
Yes, we had a lengthy discussion about this at the subcommittee, and again, it's nothing against the candidate. It's simply the process on how we're going about this in regards to the civil service assessment exam. Again, I think I am troubled because before my time, we had a union issue. The morale of the police department was very low. We are not there now. We are climbing steps. But again, the union expressed at this meeting that they would prefer a written exam. And again, my concern is, like I stated, it's causing a morale issue. Again, it's the assessment exam. I know it was clearly stated at the meeting that it's not the union that dictates to the management what they do. But at the same time, I think some of the things that we did prior was not listen to the union, and it caused some problems. So I know that it was stated during our subcommittee that Mr. Pecos, our acting town manager, would take and sit with the union and make sure that those concerns are alleviated. But here we are, again, voting before those steps are taken. Again, I'm troubled with the whole assessment center exam where, again, if it's going to be a morale issue, part of the question is it was going to cost us about $5,000, and that's if 3 candidates take the test. The union stated that they prefer a written exam. So are we going to have other candidates taking the exam? So are we just paying $5,000 for maybe 1 candidate or maybe 2? I don't know. I'm just concerned. And therefore, I just can't vote. My conscience can't vote in regards to knowing that the union has stated we don't prefer this style of exam. And therefore, tonight, I will not be for this due to the civil service assessment exam.
Councilor Manna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I read through the audit again this morning before I went to work very early, and I couldn't find anything with the union stating that they didn't prefer, they preferred the civil service exam over the assessment. And I believe I mentioned during subcommittee too that it's up to management to make that decision. It's not up to the union. And I look in this audit book and I find in the recommendations a quote from Mr. Horn that says, "Everyone must recognize that the chief is the chief. The union cannot run the department any more than the town manager or the town council." I'm going to say I am very disappointed that the union was brought into this like it was in subcommittee and now here at council. That's a whole nother issue. And I haven't heard any morale issues going on, and trust me, I ask. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Councilor Clemens?
Thank you. I was going to make a comment similar to what Councilor Manna just said, that we have as a community, our position as a council is not to get involved per se in the official employee hiring and firing. We may ratify and we may have concerns over different aspects, but the actual day-to-day operations and how things work are out of our purview. We are to set policy and to oversee many other areas in this community, but when it comes to our department heads and employee issues, that is up to our town manager and as those department heads. To say that we're worried about the union, and I don't mean anything by this. Obviously, we have a lot of union members and we have a lot of non-union members. We have over 600 employees for this town, and not all are union. As a matter of fact, our town hall went non-union a while back. So we believe we have some union at DPW, we have some union at the police, and we have some union over at the fire department, as well as non-union positions, as are the chief and deputy chief and lieutenant would be, is now and would be in terms of deputy chief. I find it highly irregular that we would bring in union request. We can think about that and all, and maybe even discuss perhaps on the back of the scene of things, but I find it highly irregular to discuss specific union desires. Perhaps it's not all of the men. We don't know that it represents all of the men, or women, excuse me. So I find it highly irregular in our position to do that. And in terms of the $5,000 for an assessment, I'm sure the chief maybe will go into the differences, or maybe Mr. Pecos, because I did hear some of that discussion in terms of the timeliness in order to move the reorganization that we've approved forward. And I know timeliness was one of the factors in regards to both Lieutenant Woodson and Sergeant Dingy's promotions. But we hear all the time that our police are leaving. Mr. Pecos has mentioned it to us a number of times that we have lost a number of good officers to other communities. Grass is greener on the other side. They're leaving because of health costs or whatever else that they're being offered and lured out of our town. We spend $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 to help all of you become good police officers and serve our community. And these people who are leaving after a year or 2 years or 3 years, who are not committed here, and Lieutenant Woodson and Sergeant Dingy have been here, as we heard, 19 and 20 years. They've given their time and their heart and soul to this community. We're not willing to invest $5,000 in assessment testing for them? Something seems a little bit off there on the numbers. They are dedicated and they deserve to have the opportunity to perhaps fill in the blank and be those people in these positions. They've proven their worth to this community. And I find certain things that council does, maybe there's new council, perhaps they don't pay attention to the rules that come down from the state or Robert's rules or many other areas. I suggest you read up on some of it, what we should and should not do on the employee process and who we should and should not talk to. But I find this a moot point, and I think in lieu of that we have agreed to the reorganizational plan, and that these people come highly recommended and have proven their worth to this community, I find it a slap to them for anybody who does not support these promotions. Thank you.
Just briefly on my end, excuse me, I've had, over the last year or so, when this has been discussed numerous times at various levels, and the prior council elected to push it off and so forth. One of my issues, and I've had this discussion in subcommittee and with the chief numerous times, is just kind of, since we referenced the management study, kind of the cherry picking of what we want. And I understand that's what we're going to do, because those who feel a certain way, you're not going to agree with everything or disagree with everything in that study, and that's fine. But the study, and this was my issue, historically Southbridge has had the 2 lieutenants, and that is what the management study had recommended. However, we've gone through that discussion, and you know, it's a difference of opinion, and we move forward. So that was my main reservation, to deal with the reorganization, which obviously just a few minutes ago I voted for. In terms of the union, I'll say the same thing I said the other night in the subcommittee meeting. This, in my opinion, I don't think anybody is asking the manager, the police chief, or anybody else to seek the union's approval or permission or anything to that effect. On my end anyways, my thought process is simply the inclusion, asking the boots on the ground what they feel about something that obviously has a very large effect and a great deal of ramifications for them, especially as these are the men and women who, most likely, since we're talking about promoting from within, will be filling these ranks. So I just wanted to clarify those 2 remarks. Do we have any other comments, questions, or concerns?
Could we just ask someone to define the different process, if you could?
I'll be glad to. If I may clarify just one point for the councilors who weren't at the subcommittee. There is urgency in this, in that these 2 men have both been doing this job without the title or the pay for over 4 years each. That's number 1. Number 2, I want all the council and everybody to know that last June 11th, I asked the union, there was an upcoming sergeants and lieutenants exam. It was posted by one of the sergeants. In writing, we asked, what type of exam would you like for that particular exam that directly affected them? So we have put that out. So I want you to know we're doing all of those things. There was a lot of things thrown around, but I asked the council this. Look at what's in front of you tonight. This is positive all around. This is positive for the community. This is positive for the police department. This is positive for the morale. This is one of the things, all of the things you were asking for in a nutshell. There is no downside to this. We have great conversation. We have great dialogue going on. We had a department meeting just a few days ago. And I think the world of this department, every single man and woman in there, all the auxiliary, they're fantastic people. But please, look at what's in front of you tonight. There is no downside to this, none, not one. And that doesn't happen very often in municipal government. Everything's a trade-off, I get that. What we've put forward, so you know, and I'll do it in less than 30 seconds, what we've worked very hard to put forward for you is a reasonable organizational structure for a police department that's twice the size of a lot of them that have 2 lieutenants and the same amount of sergeants and all the administration. I know we're not a rich community, and I have the utmost respect for that. I have the utmost respect for the taxpayer dollars. I'm not doing this because it's just in the budget. I'm doing this to try to set the department up in such a way that we can go forward years ahead, and the people within will have a stepping stone. The necessary administrative duties will be taken care of, and at the same time, we're respecting the taxpayer. Absolutely. So I ask you to look at the people, look at the resumes, look at the job. You know the structure is what it should be. These men deserve this tonight, and I absolutely respectfully ask for all of your support, because that means a lot to them. They're here every day, every night, in conditions, and you know the rest. I won't beat it to death, but thank you for your consideration.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Councilor Vecchia.
I'd just like to point out that I think both of these gentlemen, Lieutenant Woodson and Sergeant Dingy, are very good police officers. We're lucky to have the two of them. What concerns me a little bit is that I think they both should get these jobs permanently. So I would like this process to speed up so that they do both get the jobs permanently. Okay? Thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns on the motion as it currently stands? Councilor Palaquin.
I believe we still need to amend the motion, as Mr. Pecos had mentioned.
Please do.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to amend our motion to leave the words out, pending results of civil service assessment exams, so it will just read, vote to approve the promotion of Lieutenant Shane Woodson to Provisional Deputy Chief.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to amend? Councilor Carrasco.
I know back when this was presented to me before, the testing process will still be in effect, correct? Because if we vote to, because we're a civil service department, so to get promotions, you got to go through a test.
That's correct.
The testing still remains?
Yes.
And the testing will still remain the assessment center?
I don't presume that there would be any change to that, but I did agree during the subcommittee meeting, and lest there be any ambiguity on it, I will absolutely ask the chief to convene a meeting for me to sit with the leadership of the union so we can have a discussion about what that assessment center entails. And my hope is that they will see that this is a far more illuminating process than a simple exam. And because of that process that the assessment center offers, that when the candidate is identified for that deputy chief position, we can be absolutely sure we picked the best person.
Thank you. Now, this is probably a question to our chair. So this motion would, it's a change to remove the language, but we would still consider the assessment center exam. That's what we just heard, correct?
Right, I believe it would be in the minutes that is the intent, and I would imagine, not to speak for the chief or the manager, but I would imagine when it comes to the permanent appointment that would be a requirement that they've passed that. I would hope.
Just to be clear, provisional means provisional. You cannot be appointed to a permanent position through a provisional appointment. It's not possible.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Steves?
Was I going to ask a couple? Well, first of all, as far as I understand it, this amendment, it's the assessment process really isn't our purview anyway, if I understand that properly.
Isn't what I'm saying?
It really isn't our purview as a council anyway.
It is not.
I didn't think so. And the other thing, what you just said raised a question. If the provisional appointment, you cannot be appointed to the permanent seat from a provisional appointment, then if they end up being the top scorers, how do they get the posts?
There has to be a hiring procedure, there has to be an appointment, and there has to be ratification by the council.
So it would just come back as if they were completely new?
The permanent appointments will go first to the subcommittee, and then from the subcommittee to the full council.
Basically as if they were new people, completely? Okay.
All set? That's it. Councilor Vecchia?
We already approved in subcommittee that Lieutenant Woodson is going to take the assessment exam. We already approved it, okay?
No, we didn't.
We approved it in subcommittee.
It's not part of our purview.
The subcommittee just recommended.
Okay, that's right, that's right, correct. We recommended because you asked for that. Now you're stating you might change your mind after talking to the union?
No. I'll say it as clearly as I can say it. As I said during the subcommittee meeting, it is not my intent to ask permission ever to choose the means of determining the qualifications of the best candidate for any position which is within my authority to appoint, ever. But it would be the height of arrogance, and I am not an arrogant person, to refuse to have a dialogue with stakeholders who are affected by that decision and not have a reasonable, intelligent discussion about it. I think it is imperative for our system of government to make clear, bright lines in who has the authority to do what things and to maintain that those entities have the authority. The council would not want me to usurp your authority, and I would not want others to usurp my authority. That's why you have a charter. But just as the council invites others to provide input to you, the chairman has asked me to meet with the union leadership and have a discussion about this assessment center, and I will absolutely do that, and it is my hope that when that's concluded, that either there's a consensus this is a great way to move forward, or at least there's a lot less angst and concern with what it represents versus the straight civil service exam. And I'm confident because I've worked with many other police unions, and they have all found the assessment center to be a very efficacious process.
But you can't tell me 100% tonight that he's going to take the assessment exam.
Yes, I can.
What's your answer?
I think I just...
Well,
yes, we are
you're
going to
beating
have an
around the
assessment
bush.
center for the deputy chief position.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much.
Councilor Steves?
Yeah, a quick question is that I would personally would love to know what the union's thoughts are, but to say it again, it isn't really our function to determine, to get in between you and the union or between you and the chief or whatever. That's not our job. We set policy, and I don't know is there a policy point at which we can decide how you do things, but I don't think there is. I don't know. The other question is...
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I would respectfully ask the council to read the charter carefully.
Yeah, I don't think there is.
And not insert yourself in between the town manager, and I'm not speaking for this town manager.
No, I agree
I'm
with you.
speaking
That's
for
what I just said.
the
Yeah,
process
I agree.
and the structure
I
of your
agree.
government and the employees of the community.
Yeah.
Because in the charter, there is a bright line that separates the council from them. You give that authority to the manager, and the manager in turn gives it to the department heads, and the department heads give it to the sergeants and the lieutenants and the deputy directors, et cetera.
Yeah,
And
that's
if
what I
we
meant.
start to change that process, you are in great peril of making the system dysfunctional.
That's what I meant,
Everybody
yes.
needs to know who their boss is. I know who mine is. I have 9 of them. And I greatly respect that. My department heads who know who their boss is, and the employees know who their boss is. And we all have to have that in order to know who we take our policy and ultimately our administrative and daily direction from. In a police department, which is a paramilitary organization, it is imperative that the officers understand their position in the organization. Imperative. Let's not disrupt that, please. And one other note, if I might, Mr. Chairman. And I guess this needs to be said. In the back of the room, you see somewhere between, I would say, 25% and a third, maybe as much as a half of our police officers standing and watching tonight. I've been asked the question in the last week, why am I making these 2 provisional appointments such a short time before the permanent appointments will be made? And I expect that will be in only a few weeks. It is for a simple reason, because these 2 excellent police officers deserve the recognition that will go with that. And that is why, as I've spoken with councilors, I've said to you repeatedly, this is not just the right thing to do. This is a wonderful opportunity put before the council to speak to those employees, those excellent police officers, that you recognize their hard work, their dedication, their excellence, and you reward it by supporting these appointments. This is a message of great importance to the police department of Southbridge. You've spoken about morale. I cannot think of one single thing that you can do that is more a statement of your support to them and will increase morale than your approval of these appointments tonight.
And all set? Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, a roll call on the motion to amend, please.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Krasko?
No.
Counselor Clements?
Yes. Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 no.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion on the now amended motion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Krasko?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
9 yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much, counsel. I'll let the deputy speak with you.
I'll make it really quick. Thanks to the council for supporting my provisional appointment so I can continue to work for the town. Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item number 13.
We have to amend that.
Right, we have to get to it first, though.
If you read it as you want it to be.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Just remind you.
vote to approve the promotion of Sergeant Jose Dingy to provisional lieutenant. We would need a motion.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Now, any discussion, questions, or comments? I just wanted to know, I think similar, I can't speak for anybody else, but similar to the subcommittee meeting, anything that I have to say on the process or the issue has pretty much already been said because the two appointments are very intertwined. So any comments I have, I've already stated, and I've been here far too much, and I'm sure everybody else has. So last call. Council Manna.
Are we making, thank you, Mr. Chair, are we amending this also as we did?
We
No.
just didn't state it
Okay.
as read.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Vandal?
Yes.
Counselor Vecchia?
Yes.
Counselor Krasko?
Yes.
Counselor Clements?
Yes.
Counselor Estrada?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Moriarty?
Yes.
Counselor Peliquin?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you again, counsel. It's a very good night. Thank you so much for your attention.
I'll make this quicker. Thank you, councilors. Thank you, town manager, and thank you for the diehard fans thank you for supporting us.
Moving on to agenda item number 14, Councilor's Forum. And tonight we'll just start it to the right, so Councilor Clements.
Wow. I don't know how to follow something like that. It's amazing. They're filing out now. It's pretty cool. I'm glad they endured this time here. Just one thing, I didn't vote yes. I'm going to want to make a disclosure here. I didn't vote yes for the citizen to have a couple extra minutes because basically I've heard a lot of the comments before. I think the town has. And I don't have a problem with citizens having 7 minutes or 30 minutes, really, if what they say, I don't know if they can hear it, if what they say has full 100% truth. And a lot of times the comments made are not truthful, and I don't feel that it should get TV time. So I'm stating that after 5 years. I've never said that before, but I'm saying it because it's very important that the people, the community know that not always do you get the full story when you listen to the citizens, although they do have a lot of good things to say most of the time. Thank you on that one. Let's see, I want to put a shout out there. I received a call regarding cable again, and Bob, I hear you. You gave me some good information. I wasn't able to talk back with you, but some of you may be experiencing some reduced picture sizes on certain stations. Unfortunately, if your TV doesn't do some of the high def or some of the full screen technology that maybe newer models have, you will have reduced picture on some of your screens. He was hoping that I would let people know that, because that's another concern in the new digital cable situation. And other than that, I think it's a great day for Southbridge. Thank you.
Councilor Estrada?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would only like remember the people. The next Wednesday, it's Wednesday at 3:00 p.m. There will be a meeting in the work of the community. You present very important defense, the future of the children. Don't not stay home. Do not stay home, my people. I have you present to defend the value of the next generation. In the chair of the Pastor Carrasco, the next meeting, the next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Don't stay home, people. Defend the value of the next generation. Thank you.
And where is this meeting?
And the chairs and the Pastor Carrasco and the 54, the ministry.
Thank you. All set?
That's it. Thank you.
Councilor Manning?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I would just, first I'd like to congratulate Lieutenant Woodson and Sergeant Dingy again. Very excellent. I believe the decision was a very good one for the town this evening. Also, I don't think we're going to have another meeting before the election day, so I just want to remind people that November 4th is voting day. Go exercise your right. And I would also like to comment a little bit on what happened tonight at Citizens Forum. I'm a little discouraged when a citizen gets up to Citizens Forum and starts playing scare tactics on the town. It's uncalled for. And he was, in a sense, to me, using the podium as a political agenda. Because anybody who knows anything knew exactly what he was talking about. So I don't know if there's something, I know we don't want to stifle any citizens from coming up and speaking at the podium, but there's got to be a line there that they shouldn't be crossing. Unless they have full facts that this is actually happening, then they shouldn't be, I don't know, that's just my opinion. It's just poor taste. And, you know, our health director, and I believe I said this before, is not going to put our town at risk. We've been over the coal ash before. I don't believe there's a big political machine, any mobsters in Southbridge trying to hurt anybody. And that's all I guess I have to say. Yeah, just go vote November 4th, please. 7 to 8, the polls are open. Thank you.
Councilor Pellegrin?
Well, I was going to remind people about the election, but Councilor Manna took care of that for me, so thank you. I would like to thank everybody who's donated books for the Halloween book drive this year. If you would like to donate books and you haven't yet, the last day is on the 25th of the month. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Councilor Steves?
Thanks. First, a quick question through you to the town manager. When we were talking about the energy issue earlier, when we brought up the Hampshire Council of Governments, I was wondering when you talked about the fact that our contract comes due fairly soon. Are we looking at what they can provide or some other way to make sure that that some sort of a cooperative or regional process for buying energy? Yes. And B, is there any way to do that so that in such a way that the people of the town can take advantage of the same rates?
When you talk about having townspeople,
as opposed to the town
residential
facilities,
bills,
yes.
that is, we are not engaged in that. That is a major undertaking, and I'm not anticipating doing that. That's an enormous undertaking. There are a few towns that have done it, And if that's something that the council wants pursued, that we would need to do a lot of research to be able to do that. It's no small undertaking.
Okay, but it can be done in some way.
Oh, absolutely
Okay.
can be
I
done.
was
There are a
curious,
few
yes.
towns that have done it already, yes.
Okay. And the other point I just wanted to point out, again, once again, we've got issues with people. We really need people to get on town boards. Last I looked, there was at least 10 or 12 that have at least one vacancy. People who, I know that there are people that have concerns about the way the town operates and have intelligent things to say about our community, and we really need you to come step forward. We've got all kinds of things you could do. Almost any interest can be filled in some way or other. So please come forward and contact the town manager's office and put yourself into a place where you can actually have a say and contribute to the community. Thanks.
Councilor Vecchia.
Thank you. Through the chairman to the town manager, I have your memo here about downtown sidewalk work. Before I get into it, I'd like to thank you for helping the people in back of the fire department. There was drilling there at night, and everybody was up, and you stopped it. You also had the equipment taken away. The blocks are still there, but that was great. And I really appreciate that, because they couldn't sleep at night. And that happened for 2 nights, and it went away. But your letter states, it was discovered during their work that there is now a small hole about 24 inches from the building. There's a couple buildings that the sidewalk extended to their basements. Can you tell me those buildings?
I don't know which buildings they are, no, I'm sorry.
Well, it says that that area has been blocked off.
It has, and there's steel plates over it, so there's no danger to anybody while they're figuring out what they're going to do to shore those foundations.
Okay, so if I went downtown and looked, I could see
More than
where the area
likely,
was. Okay, thank you very much. That's it.
Councilor Vandal.
I've got a couple of things myself, thank you. The sidewalks near the Belanger Funeral Home, they were told that they were going to get fixed. Are we still working on that?
Yes. Yep.
So-
I don't want the council to think I can give you a specific date because...
No, I understand.
We're really sandwiching it around a bunch of other work, but it will be
Right.
done before winter, guaranteed.
Okay.
Yep.
Sidewalks near the Golden Creek down there.
Also will be done as part of this fall schedule.
Shortly?
It's actually out to bid right now, or out for quotes right now for engineering to do the drawings so that we can submit that to the state, get the money, and then do it. But that, again, is going to be done before winter.
Okay, and the trees growing, the shrubs and the junk grass growing on Woodstock Road, I asked about it, around the corner.
Yeah.
They're up this high now.
Where, I tried to mention that, but I'm a little unfamiliar. Exactly where is that?
Well, when you go down, what's your call street? I can't even think of it.
But across from the gas station.
Yeah, when you're going up on Woodstock Road.
It's going up the hill right there with the...
Right there at the bottom.
Yeah.
All right, you look and you'll see it.
So you're talking up on top of the road?
No,
to your right.
Going right, it's a big mountain lake.
Okay.
All right. I was just wondering if the state was in charge or if the town. If the town, let's get it done. If it's the state, let's send them a letter.
To be honest with you, if it's the state, we'll do it anyways. They don't object to us doing that kind of work.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah, you're right. So we'll take care of it.
Thank you.
I will go look at it again. I may need to call you to be sure, but this time if I do, I'll call you while I'm standing there so I can be sure.
Thank you.
All set?
Thanks.
Councilor Carrasco.
Yes, I have a few things. First of all, congratulations to the 2 that were promoted tonight. One of the things that I want to reiterate is that when I ran for office, I told the public that I would hold up accountability, bring unity, and bring a level of respect to the council floor. Again, I question the process. I don't question candidates. I don't question department heads. I just want the process to be done right. And if people are not certified to be in certain positions, and they have been for years, sorry, something needs to be done. because we cannot continue to operate a broken wheel. I understand that she was doing, our DPW interim director was doing 2 jobs, but this was a concern that was brought up in May. So, that being said, the council voted to give her additional manpower. I do have a request through you, Mr. Chair, to our town manager, and I know this is something that we brought up prior, on Dresser Street, right by the bridge. I know, there's been barricades and things going on, and it's been coned off. It's going to get cold, and, if we can get something done, or, I know it's a major project according to what we've discussed.
I will report back to the council at the very next meeting with exactly what it is we're going to do, because it's quite clear we cannot leave it that way for the winter.
And that's my safety concern.
The street that's on?
Dresser Street. It's
Dresser
right
and Cole
across.
Ave. I know
between-
exactly where it is.
Yes.
I don't remember the name.
Dresser and directly across from Cole Ave. And I know Councilor Estrada brought it up tonight. There is Massachusetts Family Institute will be hosting a forum at 64 Mill Street, where they will be talking about traditional values and family values. And it is open to the public. There's certain legislation that is up and will be discussed that evening. So it is an event that's open to the public, but we are discussing traditional family values. And the date is Wednesday at 6 p.m. Excuse me, this Wednesday, October, oh my God. 22nd at 7 p.m., at 7 p.m. We have Andrew Beckwith who was the president of Massachusetts Family Institute that will be here, and they will be doing the informational forum. Thank you. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 15, discussion of next meeting date.
Monday, November 10th, 2014 at 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Okay. And agenda item number 16 was a vote to enter into executive session, which is not necessary tonight, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. We are adjourned.